right. Okay, I did it. Thanks, guys. Sorry for anyone who's here who's wondering what's been happening the past couple minutes. This is the first time I'm doing this. Don't really know what I'm doing, and of course I tested this earlier this week, but as soon as I went to go do it today, it was different, and things weren't working that were supposed to be working, and I was kind of having a slight like IT moment. So let me just see if I can make this camera look a little bit better. Have I ever seen an artifact? Oh, we have one question already. This is great. Have I ever seen an artifact unleash the power of God? No, I haven't. Besides in the Indiana Jones films. My expertise is not biblical archaeology. I have dug in, I guess, what people would call the Holy Land of Jordan, but no religious artifacts for me, no magical properties. Fantastic. Oh, there's people here. That's so exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of thought that, oh, God. And there went my phone and just smashed into the thing. That's fine. I know I've gotten Amy Adams a couple times from people before, but yes. Cancel. So I have had people tell me that. Oh, I am like so nervous. This is kind of crazy. Hello from someone saying hello from India. Hello, how are you? And from Chicago. Very exciting. Yeah, so as I was saying before I knocked my camera over, really excited to have you guys here. I was like kind of nervous that no one would show up, so it's nice to see that there are some people here and people are engaging, and hopefully we can get more people showing up, but even if we don't, that's fine. I don't care. Just having a few people here is good enough for me. So I'll start off. I do have a little spiel. Probably not really that relevant since hopefully more people will join us, but welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel. I'm an archaeologist. I'm from Canada. I live in the UK. Growing up, I was really fascinated by ancient Egypt, and I watched the Indiana Jones movies. I watched the Mummy movies. I played a game called Pharaoh on the computer, which was all about building cities in ancient Egypt. And so when it came to decide what I wanted to do at university, it was pretty easy to decide to study archaeology, and it helped that there was a program at a local university that was really stellar that I ended up attending. So I did Near Eastern and Classical Archaeology for my undergraduate degree, and during that time I did 3 summers digging in the Kingdom of Jordan, which was like amazing and is like one of the highlights of my life. And then after I finished my degree, I went and I worked in Canadian archaeology for a little while, and then I moved to Scotland to study for a master's in human osteoarchaeology, which is the study of human remains. And then after that, I spent a few years working as a field archaeologist in the UK, all over the country, lots of different digs. And then in 2017, I moved out of fieldwork into an office job. In 2021, I left archaeology for reasons that I've talked about in videos on my channel, but if anybody's interested, I can talk about that again today. So just a precursor that I'm not an expert in all civilizations and or time periods, and there are some things that I don't know, but I have a pretty general knowledge, so I'll do my best to answer your questions, or perhaps sometimes I can point you towards somewhere where you can find some of those answers. My areas of expertise are ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Rome, Greece, generally the UK. Like, it's kind of spotty, my knowledge of it. It's a bit all over the place. Also, I know some Byzantine and Roman stuff, Byzantine and Ottoman stuff, and general world history. And I kind of have a bit of a niche interest that I've not really gone into on the channel on ancient or like historical female figures of power. So people like Hatshepsut, Cleopatra, Mardochai, Queen Melisende of Jerusalem, Harem Sultan. In terms of languages and ancient texts, I did study Biblical Hebrew my first year at university, and then I did Akkadian. slash Babylonian. I can't remember if I'm pretty sure it was Babylonian, and then my friend did Akkadian, so I always get it mixed up. But I'm not an expert in those languages. I don't speak them anymore, and I can't read them, and I only remember like 2 or 3 phrases. So I'm happy to take questions on all these topics. Even if it's about ancient aliens, if you want to ask me about that, that's okay. I'll do my best to answer them. But hopefully, I don't really want to spend my evening arguing with people about the validity of that stuff. So if you're asking me those questions and I've already answered it, I'll probably point you back to that. And please just be mindful and respectful of what you're asking me. This is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be like a gotcha kind of thing. I do have some advanced questions, but I have had a couple questions already in the chat. So let's see what we have so far. So as I said, first one, artifact, unleash the power of God. That's a no. I'm also just going to start with my Lego. So my friend, let's see if I can, my friend bought me this set, this Indiana Jones set, Raiders of the Lost Ark, for my birthday this year, and I thought that I would turn it into something for my channel, and we could build a Lego set that's kind of semi-archaeology focused while we're doing this today, and yeah. So I'm going to start doing that and it'll be a bit noisy as I set up some stuff, and then I'll start answering your questions. Cool. Also, my cat may or may not make an appearance on the live stream today because she is currently sleeping above my desk, and sometimes she like wakes up and gets a bit like screamy. So apologies if that happens. Right, all right, so we'll start with bag 1. So in case you can't tell, I'm like a hyper organized person in some aspects of my life, and with Lego sets I find it is a lot easier to keep track of where everything is by putting it in little boxes and stuff to help you keep track of what's what, and so everything doesn't go all over the place. I have my sunglasses out because it gets really bright in here sometimes, so I might need to put them on eventually. All right, so second question from Richard. Hi, I want to know more about archaeological sites formation processes and how it interacts with geoarchaeology. Any tips? Okay, so geoarchaeology is not my area of expertise. I do know some geoarchaeologists, but so site formation processes. That's a difficult question. Different sites and different geologies form in different ways. So a lot of the times, what will happen, say you built a house a couple thousand years ago, and then you decide to, for whatever reason, move on. Maybe the climate's changed in the area, or it's not really hospitable for you anymore, or whatever, and you when you abandon that house, you're not going to, sometimes you might just leave, but sometimes people will then come and they'll remove parts of it. So sometimes people will like take things away. Reusing blocks is really familiar, and then you essentially get to a point sometimes where the foundations are left, and then you'll have just natural processes from nature. So like, for example, if you live somewhere in a desert, the sand comes in and fills it in, and you have drift and wind, and the elements just essentially cover it up. It also depends on what happens to that area afterwards. If you're in the middle of a city, a lot of the times, people build things, they tear things down and then they build things on top of them. but they don't tear them down all the way. They'll tear things down to the foundations, or sometimes they'll reuse a building, etc. So geoarchaeology, well, I guess site formations is kind of part of geology and the development of stratigraphy, but there's lots of different things that can affect it. But yeah, a lot of the time it'll be something gets torn down and then natural processes like silted up or with soil or sand, or it gets flooded and different geological events happen, and then things just kind of build up over time. So I hope that does an okay job of answering your question. Vaverka, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Most fun archaeological channel I'm subscribed to. Don't be nervous. Oh, well, thank you. That's I do strive to try and make things fun. I hope it's not too boring. So Sports Point says, "Dear ma'am, how to start online archaeology course?" Google one. There's lots of different places that do archaeological courses online for free, or and sometimes you can sign up for them and pay for them online. I know there's a friend of mine. She is an Egyptologist. I've known her since I basically started doing archaeology. We met in our undergrad. She's currently she works for an organization called the Egypt Exploration Society, and they run lots of courses. I don't know how many of them are free, but they run lots of courses. They're based down in London, and they do lots of cool things about ancient Egypt and engaging people. And I don't know if they do digs. I know she does digs as a part of her work, but I don't know if that's something they offer people who are members of it. But yeah. There's also the Save Cultural Heritage group, which I have done some interactions with before. I think I've done like guest interviews and stuff like that on their YouTube channel before. And I know that they run quite a few free courses, and they have tons of interviews with archaeologists and stuff like that, and they run events and everything, so they're a really interesting organization to look up. So yeah, that's Save Cultural Heritage Group. I'm pretty sure that's the correct way. There's an acronym, but I don't remember it, but if you just look it up, you should be able to find it. So let's see. Vaverka asks, "Is it easier to be a Canadian or UK archaeologist?" Let me just see. I have a microphone. I don't know if it's actually plugged in or not, but I'll just put it on my shirt just in case it is. Easier to be a Canadian or UK archaeologist? That kind of depends on, well, there's a couple different answers to that question. Why I didn't end up working in Canadian archaeology is a few different reasons. First of all, obviously, as I said, I studied Mesopotamian and Egyptian, Greek, Roman archaeology at university, and Canada doesn't really have any Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Greek, or Roman remains to study. So it wasn't my area of expertise, and the 10 months that I did spend working in Canadian archaeology between my master's and my undergrad were not my favorite time. I had dug in Jordan by this point, and I ended up digging through the Canadian winter because the client that we were working for was happy to pay for us to work through the winter, which it's Canada, the ground freezes. They literally had us in like a marquee tent, like one of those big event tents, and they were brought diesel heaters in, and they thawed the ground to melt it so that we could work. And it was like, the people I worked with were great, and the pay was actually, like, for that time was really good, but you know, I was at that time working at home. I wasn't supporting myself. I was saving up for a master's. So that, you know, I can't really comment on if that pay was really good for something like a career and raising a family, but I do have several friends that still work in Canadian archaeology and they really enjoy it. So that's fine. That was just what it was for them. UK archaeology is very different. You get like Canadian archaeology, because of the way that the weather is, the contracts tend to be quite seasonal until you are more senior, so you don't, you know, have work during the winter a lot of the time. And you know, people will go away and they'll do other jobs. Like I knew someone who was like a makeup artist at a counter at a drugstore in their spare time. In their spare time in the off season. Where's this piece that I'm looking for? 1 second, I've got to take a break to look for this piece that I'm supposed to have. There it is. And so, so in the UK, because the ground doesn't freeze every year, people tend to get, you can have the option of working year round if you want to. So in that way, I think it's a lot easier to kind of find regular work, but I think the UK in general is probably less well paid. I think they, like the subsistence, I remember, so that subsistence is the pay that you get to compensate you for staying away from home. So it's supposed to pay for like your meals and like the money that you would be spending on groceries, etc., etc. The subsistence pay in the UK is just crap in comparison to what I was making in Canada. I think in Canada, bear in mind this was 10 years ago, you know, things may have changed since then. I've already made a mistake. Great. Oh no, I was hoping not to do this. Yeah, so my subsistence pay when I was in Canada working as a Canadian archaeologist was $50 a day for every day that I was away. So that would be, I think it was 5 days. No, it would be 4 days a week because you come back on the one day. And so and they paid it to you cash in your hand, like someone came to your hotel room every Monday and gave it to you. They gave it to you cash on Monday, like $200, and you could spend it on whatever you wanted. I never, I think, spent the full 200. A lot of people saved it. Here in the UK, it's a bit different. I don't think I've ever gotten cash in hand. Different companies have different ways of doing it. I had one where they stood at the cash register when you bought your groceries and paid for your groceries. And I've had it worked at several companies where you're supposed to get, like, say, £10 a day. I think it is more than that, but that's the easiest thing for me because I can't do math. You get like £10 a day, and so you're getting £40 for the week to spend on your groceries. You have to spend that on Monday to buy all of your stuff. And there are some companies that are charging their clients £40 per person on the project per week. And then if you as the employee don't spend that full £40, the company just takes the extra. They don't pay that out always to you. So there were people that would like go around the grocery store with a calculator out, literally buying everything up until like as close to 40 pounds as they possibly could, because they were like, well, that's my money, and whatever. And yeah, I personally don't agree with that practice. I don't think that those companies should be able to get away with that, but that's just the way that it is. Personally, I really enjoy being I enjoyed being a UK archaeologist. One of the things I liked about it over here is there's a lot more variety in the kinds of sites that you're digging. You know, you can work on industrial, you could work on Roman, you could work on Iron Age, you could work on medieval. And in Canada, in my experience, bear in mind it was like 10 months, so it wasn't like very long. It's basically colonial or Native American. And those are the kinds of, and it's not to say that those sites are boring, but they just, again, they weren't the kind of stuff that I had been really interested in, and like prehistoric, like Native American stuff just wasn't my particular interest. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just, yeah, people are allowed to have their things that they like, and I was all about Egypt, but then I didn't end up studying Egyptology, so I'm sure that we could infer something from that. Right, okay, so let's see, we have a few more comments. What's the oldest artifact ever discovered? Oh, oof. Well, that's a hard one, because to be honest, it's like constantly changing. We're finding older and older and older stuff all the time. It also depends on what you qualify as like an artifact, because are you talking about like stuff that's humans? Or are you talking about stuff that's like hominid? So, you know, Neanderthal or Denisovan or whatever. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I know that we have stuff going back hundreds of thousands of years. And yeah. Yeah, that's all I know about that one. And also, like, obviously it's different parts of the world. But I'll actually, you know what, you've made me curious. So now I'm going to Google it. And we'll see if the Google has an answer for us, because I'm sorry to burst the bubble for everyone, but like Google has the answers like 90% of the time. Oldest known artifact. So Google says it's the Lomqui stone tools, which are 3.3 million years old and are from an archaeological site in Kenya. So there you go. Yeah, stone tools. There was a story in the news this week about how down in, I think it's Kent, somewhere in England, they've found a bunch of really old giant stone tools, and everyone's really excited about those. So hopefully we'll be able to learn more about them, and I'm sure that they will be featured in the next edition of Archaeology News that's coming out for July. So that will be the first week of August. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I do a news show every month where I crawl the news feeds and then talk about the most recent major discoveries that people are making that some of you have heard of, sometimes you haven't heard of them. And yeah, okay. I use makeup trays for my Lego. That's a great tip. These are a combination of takeaway trays and a like, it's a tray I bought from my fridge for putting cold cuts in. Obviously there's no cold cuts in it at the moment. But yeah, that's what I've used that for. I'm like trying to put this more in the camera so that you guys can see it. Maybe actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move myself over here, and that's going to give you a much better view of what I'm making. Yes, Rachel, I'm just going to reorient the thing. Cool. I just have to like fix how I sit. This is weird. Okay, oldest artifact, makeup trays. Have as many artifacts as you have Legos. I do not have as many artifacts as I have Legos. I don't really have any. Well, that's not true. My necklace that I'm wearing is technically an artifact. It's a Ptolemaic coin of Ptolemy. I can never remember what number he is. I think it's 12. Again, Google 12, yes. just go with my instinct. It's a coin of Ptolemy the 12th, who was the father of the famous Cleopatra. My dad bought me this as a gift. It was either right before I went to university to study archaeology, or it was like right before I went on my first dig. He bought this for me. He bought the coin off of a numismatics thing, and then he had it made into a necklace. And it is my most treasured possession, and if anyone ever steals it or if I ever lose it, I will never stop crying because, yeah, it means a lot to me. Right. Thank you. Richard says, thank you. Sorry for the super specific question. That's okay. I mean, this is this is why I kind of did the caveat of, I have quite a good general knowledge, but I don't have expert knowledge of everything. And geoarchaeology is a combination of archaeology and geology, and it's just, it's a lot more complicated than what I studied. Hand axes. Is it true that UK archaeologists flock to a pub after work? Certainly it does happen. I would say that that's not just something that you could confine to UK archaeologists. That is something that applies to archaeologists world round. My digs in Jordan, we had some pretty interesting parties in the Middle East when I was there. Some great memories from those. Certainly there is a pretty big drinking culture in the UK, and definitely I have worked with archaeologists who, yes, they finish work and then they go to the pub after they've had their dinner, pour their dinner, etc. Yeah. Not all of us do. That's never been my thing. I don't get me wrong. I would enjoy a drink at the pub on a Friday after work, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just a typical millennial in that I don't drink tons, and it's never really been a big thing for me. So, yeah. Okay. 3.3 million years old. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Paleo Indians have all the best stones, jade, etc. I don't really know what you're saying with that. Well, so Lonely One asks, what was your specialty in archaeology, if not Egyptology? I would say, so I have a master's degree in human osteoarchaeology, which is the study of human remains, so skeletal remains, not remains with flesh necessarily still on them. That's more like forensics. Yeah, that's what I studied for my master's. I decided to study that instead of Egyptology because I felt like it was a better all-rounder degree. Something like Egyptology means that you can, theoretically means that you're only going to work in Egypt. And when I was kind of deciding what to do with my master's, my thinking was I would kind of like to work everywhere because I love ancient Egypt. It's my bag. It's my original, my OG love. But I also enjoy learning about lots of other cultures and places from all over the world. So, I've read about the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Incas. I have went through a real phase where I was really fascinated by Mongolian history as well. And so for me, the logic there was, not everywhere is Egypt, but everybody dies. Most people end up being buried in some kind of way. So if I was an osteologist, that would theoretically mean that I could go on a dig anywhere, and I wouldn't be limited to a specific culture or time period in what I was doing. And that was sort of true, but yeah, there's not a lot of places looking for traveling osteologists. That's not really a career path, so to speak. And I got the master's, and I've only ever worked on one site where I was able to handle human remains as a professional archaeologist, being paid to do it, which was a really exciting experience, but I wasn't being paid any extra because of my degree or anything. I was just part of the site team. And osteology jobs are really few and far between. It's actually a really interesting topic for me because UK universities love an international student, and especially if they're coming from like Canada and America, there are tons. I think like my master's course at the University of Edinburgh had like 2 Scottish people in it. And the vast majority of the people on our course were not natives to the UK. There was a lot of Canadians, a lot of Americans, and essentially we all come to this country and we do our degrees here, and then we go home. And I was kind of doing it with an eye to like, oh, this can like really benefit me for a career. And then I kind of found out later that it's not really a career because so many people come and so many people have this qualification in osteoarchaeology that the jobs are really few and far between, and they're really, really competitive, and they're not like having a permanent job as an osteologist is like incredibly rare. So it just wasn't really feasible. So that's kind of why I ended up doing field archaeology instead. And also, like, I wasn't interested in doing a PhD. Maybe if I was doing a PhD, it would have been different, but yeah. Yeah, necklace is like your headpiece to the staff of Ra. Yeah, basically. I wish it would lead me to some ancient treasure. That would be pretty cool. But yes, it hasn't done that, but that's fine. The sentimental value more than makes up for it. Do you currently work as an archaeologist? I apologize. I half remember you making a video that you got out of the field. Thank you for asking. No, I do not. I would love to go back to, well, it's a bit complicated. I would, in theory, love to go back to doing archaeology and to working as an archaeologist, but it is not, it was really difficult. It was, to be honest, it was a really, really difficult decision for me to leave because so much of my identity is tied up into being an archaeologist. You know, I also went through like a whole thing when I left about the channel being like, should I really be doing this anymore? Like, am I still like really qualified? Can I call myself an archaeologist anymore? Etc. etc. Can I really give people advice? And some of that is why I've started kind of like branching out into some non-advice related videos and doing a lot more with like guests and stuff like that. But I think the reality of it is that archaeology, for me, I really wanted to make money. It started mattering to me that I wanted to make more money than I was making, and the archaeology profession, it takes a really long time before that's going to happen. There's just not a fast route of progression a lot of the time. And even then, you know, there's lots of people that you're competing against for those jobs. And as well, field work, as much as I like loved it and it was great, like it's hard to do for a prolonged period of time, because you're traveling away from home Monday to Friday, you're always staying in hotels, you know, you're dirty a lot of the time, and it's manual labor, so it's, you know, it's not easy. You know, you might be in okay shape, but yeah, it's just like, as a long-term thing, it's really difficult to do as well. And this is not like for me particularly, but a lot of women do end up leaving around my age because they want to have a baby, and it's really hard to do that if you're working as an archaeologist in the field, because you can't take a baby with you into a field into the middle of nowhere. I'm pretty sure that is like a huge health and safety nightmare that no supervisor or health and safety authority would ever sign off. And for me, I was just kind of like, you know, I wanted to have like a bit of a break, And then I kind of got this office job, and now I'm not working in archaeology. I make a lot more money than a lot of people working in archaeology that I know. Sorry, I say a lot more money. That's probably not true, but I'm sure that I make more money than I would be if I had stayed in archaeology, if that makes any sense. And I also just wanted to like see my partner, now husband, on a more regular basis. I wanted to have like a social life, and that's just kind of hard to do. I would love to get back into doing field work at some point in some capacity. Like I actually did reach out to some digs earlier this year, to see if I could like find a way of going on a dig for like 2 weeks and then maybe like film it, put it on the channel and do something with it. But they all said no for a variety of reasons. I think quite a few because like they want people there for 6 weeks. They want people like paying the full amount to do it, etc. Whatever. So one day, I'm working on it. I have a lot of friends who are off with, now they have PhDs. They've been studying for PhDs and now they actually have them. So I have a lot of friends who have PhDs, and I would love if eventually they need people on digs and I'll just go dig with them for a little while. I had one, she had been offered a dig somewhere last year, and I was like this close to being able to go on a field season for a few weeks, and I was so excited to do it. But then it all fell through because the people that were offering it to her basically were expecting her to pay to do it up front out of her own pocket, and she's like an archaeologist and she can't do that. So maybe one day we'll get there. I would really, really love to do that. What happens to artifacts on official digs that are not of importance? For example, common roll nails, pieces of pottery. They get chucked. So, yeah, spoil heaps. So a good example of this is my dig that I did in Jordan, and like every day we would come back from the field, we would wash all of our finds and they would dry, and our professor, who like her specialty was pottery, so she would basically go through, we would lay it all out on like a table like this from all the different contexts and for all the different things, and she would go through it with whoever the supervisor was for that square, and they would look and they would pick out the pieces, like the diagnostic pieces. And when I say diagnostic, that's something that like basically tells you something about that piece of pottery. So that can usually, if it's like a rim, a piece of a base, a handle, if it has any markings on it or something like that that tells you something about it, that's diagnostic. So we would keep those. If there was maybe several different pieces from the same vessel that we could tell, you would keep all of that, because sometimes you do put things back together. But the things that weren't diagnostic and therefore like weren't going to give us any of the knowledge that we needed, they get brought back onto site and chucked down the side of the hill. So yeah, if you're on or near an archaeological site, there's entirely possible that there's a heap full of random pottery nearby, but you definitely should not take that as carte blanche to just go help yourself to some, because that is very much illegal and people get arrested for it. So don't do that. Yeah. When you're not out on a dig, what is the majority of your time spent as an archaeologist? Teaching at universities, research, continuing education. So this depends. So Matuo is asking this question. So if you're an academic archaeologist, which is somebody that is a professor at a school, which is probably what most people associate archaeologists with being, that's what Indiana Jones theoretically was. He was a professor at a university in between his adventures. Yeah, most of your time is spent teaching and or writing you're like writing papers, writing up reports for your sites, but I would say the majority of the time is teaching, teaching your classes. If you are a commercial archaeologist, which is what I used to do, if you're not in the field, you'll be doing some kind of like processing for the last dig that you were on. So depending on your level, like people down at the bottom tier, they would be doing basic processing. So you'd be washing fines, might be doing stuff with soil samples, or you'd be sitting at a computer typing in data entry of, typing up your written notes from the field into databases and spreadsheets. And then the more senior people are the ones who are then looking at the data and making the interpretations and writing the reports for it, because the reports are the important part, because that's what the client is paying for, and that is the thing that tells us that is how we make our interpretation of this site was X and means this, and these sites, these finds mean this, blah blah blah. Writing the reports can take a long time, or they can be short, depends on how much you found on that site. Some sites, a lot of sites actually, you don't find anything. or all that you're finding is crap. It's not nearly as exciting as people think. And so those reports are really easy to write, because you can just be like, oh, there was nothing here. Go ahead and dig and build your houses. You don't have to worry about, destroying anything in the process. So, is it fun to call Edinburgh home? Yes, it is fun. I do love it here. It's a very interesting city. I definitely have, as I've gotten older though, like sometimes you live somewhere and the sheen of it like wears off, and people are like, oh, it must be so exciting to live there, and you're like, yeah, whatever. I think that's happened to me a bit with Edinburgh, where I'm just like, yeah, this is just where I live, like, and then other people are like, oh my god, that's like, I would kill to live there, blah 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 blah. I'm sorry, I just keep on, I don't think I'm paying enough attention to the Lego. I don't think I'm doing this am I doing this correctly? Yes. So I do love it, and I'm trying to kind of be a bit more active in enjoying Edinburgh. For anybody who doesn't really know too much about it, August is like our peak tourist season. Everybody comes to Edinburgh in August for our big arts festivals that we have going on, and the entire city just fills up. You're not really a resident of Edinburgh until you started complaining about the tourists and how they really inconvenience you on your commute to work while during the festival, basically. Yeah. Oh, Kaylee, History with Kaylee is here. That's so lovely. Hi, Kaylee. Hi, welcome. So, if you guys don't know History with Kaylee, which you probably do because she's a much bigger and better channel than I am, she is based in the Netherlands, and she does history content on YouTube, and she is really cool. She reached out to me, and we started speaking a few years ago now, and she's currently in Scotland. So I actually met up with her yesterday, and we went for dinner, and it was really lovely, and we had really tasty food. So hi, Kaylee, welcome. I'm glad. I know that the internet in the Highlands is not great, but it's good that you're here. Tara Knott says, thank you for your answer. I definitely think you are qualified to talk about the field. You have the education, you have the experience, you're well spoken. I think that's enough. Thanks, Tara Knott. I really appreciate that. I have a lot of imposter syndrome with what I do, so yeah, any validation or anyone verifying that I'm still qualified to speak about these things is appreciated. Anthony Benny Joseph says, hey Rachel, hello. Would love to live in Edinburgh. Was married there. Yes, Edinburgh's lovely. I got married just outside of Edinburgh in a castle. It was amazing. I will say, anybody who thinks that they would love to live here, come here in the winter first before you say that, because it is lovely and it's beautiful in the springtime and etc. But Oh man, I come from Canada. I prefer the winters there because a Scottish winter is the worst. It is. I just. Um. Yeah, if there's one thing that I could change about Edinburgh, it would be the winters because they, in contrast to Canada, where it's nice and snowy and everything's properly heated and it's all fine, here it's just like dark and it's cold and it's damp and it seeps into your bones and everything's musty and any time that it snows, the entire country grinds to a halt because even though it happens every year, for some reason, they just don't know how to deal with it. I don't know why. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Guys, I'm making progress. I'm almost finished one bag and it's been an hour. If I continue at this rate, we're going to be here for forever. So I think I need to speed up a bit. Okay. Have you personally made any significant or valuable discoveries on a dig site? Again, kind of depends on what you define as valuable or personal. I have been on a dig site. I did not personally find this, but I have been on a dig site where we found gold, which everyone was like losing their minds when it happened because as an archaeologist, like one of the first things that they tell you when you kind of start studying is like, don't ever expect to find gold. We don't find that. We find lots of other things, but like gold is not something you can really like expect. So I was on this site. It's called Carnoustie, which is Carnoustie. And we were digging there in advance of them putting in like a new football pitch for the school that was just down the road. And on a Friday, literally like 2 hours before we were supposed to go home, we had a machine, this very standard. It was stripping the site. So when I say that, it means it was taking the topsoil off of the site to expose basically the layer underneath, which is where we see archaeological features. You don't often find stuff in topsoil in the UK. Well, you probably can find stuff in it, but we don't dig it. So it was pulling back the topsoil, and the person who was watching it was like, "Oh my God, stop!" And there was just this bright line of green in the soil, and that was bronze spearhead that had a tiny little circlet of gold right around the end where like the wooden shaft of the spear would have gone into the spearhead. And yeah, as I said, we like collectively just like lost our minds. It was crazy. We had to spend like the rest of our day basically cutting a block of dirt around it to lift it out and then put it in the back of our truck so that we could have it excavated in the lab. And that was so that we could ensure maximum recovery of whatever we were going to find, because if we had excavated it there, there's no like guarantee that you're going to get your everything that's there. So like because they were able to eventually to do it in the lab, they actually found that it was a spear and a sword and a couple other things, and they were like wrapped. One was wrapped in like wool, and the other one was like wrapped in sheepskin or something like that. And they were able to recover all of that because they were able to excavate it so delicately in those like ideal conditions. And yeah, so you can Google that Carnoustie like spearhead or Carnoustie spear or whatever. And yeah, I was there that day when they found it, and that was probably like the coolest thing that I've ever been around for. Stone toolbox under the strawberries. I don't know what that means. What are they digging up near you now? Says Ron Flugrass. Interesting name. Give me 1 second. I've got to open my next bag of Lego. So. Also, obviously, the late afternoon light is shining inside of my window, which is why my lighting is all over the place. That's fine. Okay, what are they digging up near me now? I don't know. I live in Edinburgh. They're digging up stuff all the time. We have a lot of student housing that's going up. We have a lot of like luxury condos that are going up. I haven't heard of anything like really exciting being found in Edinburgh lately, or at least nothing that's like made the popular news cycle or like the Facebook groups that I lurk in. They're currently dueling the A7, which is a road that's like up to the Highlands. So I'm sure they're finding some interesting stuff on that, but they've just not released it yet, or I haven't looked at it. Very nice questions here. I'm also Felix Kostelbauer. Very nice questions here. I'm also an archaeologist, and people only ask me if I found any gold. Yeah, that's a pretty common question. I actually have prepared some questions in case people get bored and they want to, and people run out of questions to ask. And one of those was, have you ever found gold? And I obviously just gave you my answer. So there you go. What pieces? So I need one of these, one of these, one of those. Okay. What's my favorite period of history? Oh, that's that's a no-brainer. New Kingdom Egypt during the time of Queen Hatshepsut. That's like, if I could have a time machine like Indiana Jones, that is the time to which I would travel back to. That is like the heyday of the empire of ancient Egypt. It is a incredibly prosperous area. I also, one of the reasons I would always like, if I could pick a place to live in antiquity, it would be ancient Egypt, is because, and this may not matter to some people, they had really great women's rights. Women were not just, pieces of property. They had jobs, they had rights, they ruled. So they actually had pretty good, stuff back then, and that is something that would matter to me. So yeah, there you go. Seems like info from various digs for people not in the field is impossible to find or access. Is it just unavailable to the public due to looting, or due to various archaeologists to keep their finds private? No, I think that's, I mean, not to shit talk other archaeologists. I don't think that that's due to that. I think it's due to the fact that we're really bad at advertising it. And we're just really bad at marketing ourselves and marketing our finds. The people who manage to do it really well, for example, Egypt, you will not have a hard time finding information about what's going on in Egypt because they press release everything. Anything major going on in Egypt, there's a press release about it. And so, for example, in the UK, if you're looking for information about digs and stuff here, a lot of that information does end up being publicly available as a part of archives. So archives are a big thing. In the UK, like cities and stuff like that are run by councils. And as a part of running a city, they will have a council archive where a lot of the times they have this information. There's a program called Oasis, which we basically I don't know if it's in England, but in Scotland, if you do a project up here, you have to essentially like put a bunch of your results into this database. You have to make an Oasis entry. I don't know if you have to pay to look at it, because I think more often than not, it's like a planning portal. So like people can look at it if they're wanting to, like, if they're a developer and they're wanting to dig something up and they need to know what's happening. But also, like, for example, Historic Environment Scotland, they're the body that looks after all of the archaeology in Scotland. They have a gigantic register of their historic buildings. They have this thing, it's a really cool piece of technology. It's called Past Map. So you can find it on their website. It's free. You can look at it wherever you want, and it basically is like all of the maps of Scotland. You can like toggle through different layers of different maps from different times, and then it also will tell you, like, if you zoom in, like listed buildings. So these are buildings that are protected for heritage reasons, and then you can click on the building and you can like read a bunch of stuff that we know about it. So we're just really bad. We're just really bad at publicizing things, and a lot of the times we're just so insular. Things get published in academic articles, which for a long time you would have had to pay to have access to that article, and otherwise it's not available. But something somebody told me once that I thought was really interesting was that if you have an article that you really want to read and you can't seem to access it on the internet, contact the person who wrote it, and more often than not, they'll send it to you, because just because it's been published in that journal doesn't like necessarily own that information. That's how it was said to me. That may or may not be true. But if you contact the person who wrote it and said, hey, I'm really interested and I wanted to read more on this paper, but I don't have like a subscription, they'll probably just send it to you. So yeah, because for them, what they want is they want people to read this information. They want people to be interested and to know about it. So they're more often than not, in my experience, they're more than happy for you to ask them for it, and they'll give it to you. And like another good spot to look for things that I think people just like slag off unnecessarily is Wikipedia. Because if you go to a Wikipedia page of something and you scroll down, they have references to things, and a lot of the time they're academic references, and I think a lot of the time they're wherever those references are hosted for free on the internet, and you can just go find the article. I've done that a lot for archaeology news as well, when I read like when there's like a news release or like a press release or an article, and you can tell that article has been written about like 10 times. Oftentimes they will link in the news article where they've gotten the information up from, and it'll be like the original academic paper that's like available for free, because having these things open access and be available is becoming more and more of a thing. Yeah. So there's that. I'm researching for a video on Mary King's clothes. I love the history of Edinburgh. Yeah, it's great. I've been to Mary King's clothes. It's really cool. I actually just went there for the first time as a part of my wedding. We took my parents and everyone there, and we did like the whole tour, and it was really fun. Again, me being a really bad resident of Edinburgh, that I've never been to it before, and it's like one of our most famous visitor attractions. Basically, it seems like things in archaeology are not as open as... It's hard to... So sometimes as well, the thing about digs is that these things go on for a long time sometimes, and they're not going to... They might put out an article every year. Like the dig that I went on in Jordan, they basically, as a part of their permit, they were required to do like a bit of a summary of what they found for that year. But it wasn't like the full site, and that's because it's going to it takes years to dig these sites, and then it takes years to publish them. And so sometimes they've just not put the information out there. So more often than not, if you contact people, they will probably be happy to either point you in the direction of what you need, or they can answer your questions for you. It's just, like I said, we're just really bad at talking to people outside of archaeology, because we just assume that, I don't know, nobody's interested, which is to our own detriment. Davlavi is here. I see your comments on like every single one of my videos, and I just want to say, like, I really appreciate them, and you've been here for ages, so thanks for coming along. It's great to see you. Spear of Destiny, Fortune and Glory. Oh, lots of Indiana Jones quotes here. Here's a question for the chat. has everybody seen Dial of Destiny yet? So I'm going to, oh, can I do a poll? Engage with your audience. Oh, I can start a poll. I'm gonna do a poll. Have you seen, oh God, if I could spell that would be great. Haven't seen Dial of Destiny yet. Yes. Yes. No. Vote. And then I'll ask you afterwards if you liked it. Spoiler alert, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was certainly better than Crystal Skull. I flippin' hate Crystal Skull. Hello, have you had any of your research papers published? How far into your career were you when you were first published? Did you have any mentors to help you with that at the time? No, I haven't had any. Well, no. I think I've been mentioned as a thank you in a research paper because I contributed. I was basically helping illustrate some drawings, and I think I got credited in a paper for that. I haven't published any research papers on my own. It's not really my area of expertise. I probably the closest thing I could have done with that is publishing my master's thesis, but I don't know. Again, maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm just being too hard on myself. I don't think my master's thesis is that groundbreaking or interesting. I didn't discover anything that was, I don't know, groundbreaking. Ha 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 ha. And because I'm not an academic, publishing isn't like a necessary requirement for me or ever was during for my job. Why can I not find this one piece of Lego? I swear to God. It'll still get in the bag. I hate this. It always happens when I'm doing Lego. It's just at one point you just you spend 10 minutes looking for the one piece that you can't find, and it was right there the whole time. Ah, see? Exactly. There. It's these. Where's the camera? It's these things. What? Found it. I have been approached recently about writing a paper for a journal, like an open source journal, and I am interested in it, and it's more about fragmentation in archaeology, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what that means, but I can figure it out as I go along. But it's kind of just the person that contacted me is kind of just asking for my opinion as somebody who's obviously spoken on the topic about how the discipline has kind of fragmented. So that is on my list of things to write. I have just had no time to do it so far. I've had a really busy June because I was making all of those videos for Indiana Jones, and then it was also my birthday, and I had a bunch of work trips that I had to go on. So yeah, I've just not had time to write it yet, but once I do, it definitely will be on my channel. Also, they were asking, did you have any mentors to help you with at that time? I think a lot of the time, if you're writing papers and you're trying to get published, if you have a professor or somebody that you work with that knows how to do that, I think you would just ask them for help. That's what I would do. I have lots of friends who are, like I said, they're PhDs or they are academic archaeologists. So if I was ever being published and I really needed some help, I would just ask them to read it over and tell me what they think. Yeah. Okay. Where's this next piece? Okay. There it is. 1, 2. This is actually really hard to do while I'm talking. I feel like I'm going to be here for a really long time, and I've not eaten dinner, so this is going to be interesting. How can you learn more about digs happening from around where you live? How can the general public get more involved with field sites? I'm not an archaeologist, but I'm interested in getting involved locally. So again, Google's your best friend. In the UK, we have depending on how old you are, there's the Young Archaeologist Club. There's usually also metal detectorists groups are pretty good they're pretty involved, or like local lectures sometimes happen, your local council. Here in the UK, there's like a big push at the moment around what's the word that I'm looking for here? Like community engagement in archaeology. So, for example, the A14 Cambridge to Huntington Improvement Scheme, I was involved in that at the end of my field career. They had a bunch of community digs that they had to run as a part of the job to involve the local community. And things like that are becoming more and more and more and more prevalent as time goes on, because clearly people are quite interested in this. So yeah, locally, if you can check with, I don't know, your council, your city council or something like that, there might be stuff going on, or just doing a Google. If you have a local, like a university or a college that's near you that has an archaeology department, you could get in touch with them. There were people on my field school digs, which were run by my school specifically for students, who went on it that weren't students, and they just wanted to be involved and do archaeology, and they did, and they paid to do it. Don't get me wrong, they didn't get to go for free, but they were able to do it. And yeah, there is like this whole thing as well coming up of like archaeology tourism. So in the UK, there is a company called Dig Ventures, and they basically run digs for tourism. So you pay to go on their dig. They have one at Lindisfarne, which is a castle site, or no, it's like a monastery castle thing off the northeast coast. So they run that pretty regularly. There's also, I think, Time Team has resurrected itself on YouTube. I don't know if they still have like community aspects of it. There's also the Great British Dig. But yeah, local history societies, local history groups, those people, if you can connect with them, they will know what's going on like 9 times out of 10. Okay, next. Also just wanted to say thank you for doing this. Extremely innocent for outsiders. Oh, thank you. You're not outsiders, you guys. We're all friends here, and we're just, this is the thing about archaeology is I would hope that you guys don't think that we all just want to keep things from you, because we really don't. We're nerds, and we're just not really good about like shouting out about all of our really exciting stuff all the time. But the purpose of archaeology is knowledge, and that knowledge is and the purpose of that knowledge is to share it with the public, because you guys are why else are we doing this if we don't want other people to know about it? We do want you to know about it, and it's, in a lot of the cases, it's like your heritage, and it's something to be shared. So 100%, like, we don't want people coming onto sites and digging them up because they want to be like without us being involved, because that's not great. I haven't met many archaeologists who aren't happy to answer questions from people. It's just, there's not that many of us, so we can be a bit hard to find sometimes. Because we're not exactly the biggest community of all time. It's not like we're a bunch of like lawyers or doctors, or they're all over the place. Egyptians respected cats too. They loved a cat. Felix in Austria. It's indeed due to fear of looting why most digs don't get any attention. In my opinion, if you're really into looting, you already know your sites regardless of any media coverage. Looting is a concern. So that is why, as Felix is kind of saying here, you don't tend to hear about archaeological sites happening until the archaeology has finished on site and they've kind of stopped, because it is a thing. People have ruined it for other people by they hear about a site in the media, and then they think, ooh, that's cool, I'm going to go check it out. And they go onto the site after work with their metal detector, and then they completely destroy what the archaeologists are doing and in search of treasure. Or sometimes there was a site that I read about in, down south in England where like people were just like walking around. It was a cemetery site, and locals were just like walking around, taking photos and looking into all the holes and stuff, which like it destroys the work that we're doing, and it's also really unsafe. We dig really deep holes in the ground, and if it's after dark, which it probably is if you're not there officially, it's gonna, it's liable that you're gonna hurt yourself if you fall into a pit, and then nobody's gonna know until like the next morning. So yeah, so that's why a lot of sometimes, maybe not all the time, but sometimes you will find that a site like doesn't talk about these things until we're finished on site. But that being said, like I was saying, there is more community stuff going on in things in the UK, and there are lots of digs that do have people come on site. For example, actually, the site that we found gold on, we were like, part of the reason why we were all like collectively crapping our pants was that it was the end of the day on a Friday, and it was like, oh, and they were like thinking like, we have to sort out security now because we actually had press on site that day. So completely unrelated to finding this spearhead, the local paper was out taking some really interesting photos of us. My gosh, I saw the one of me afterwards and I look terrible. They were doing like a little interview about the site, what we were expecting to find, blah, blah, blah. And they were literally getting in their car to leave when we found this thing. And we were like, oh, you gotta like, the person who found it went up to them, was like, oh, you're gonna want to see this. Probably not the best move to do retroactively, but it did mean that they basically stayed and they got amazing photos of this find. But it also meant that like basically the word was out that was happening, and ergo we were going to need to get security because word would be around town by the end of the day. And most people are well intentioned, other people are not, and you unfortunately you have to take that into account. Is it easier to volunteer to a UK expedition for a month or two? Probably. I mean, it depends where you are in the world, obviously, because a lot of it will depend on where you're able to get to, and like how much it's going to cost you to stay and whatnot. Visa wise, that shouldn't be a problem as well, but you obviously can't overstay whatever visa you're on. I do find, like, from what I see, the UK digs tend to be like a bit more flexible. For some of them are long time, some of them are shorter, and some of them will allow you to come just for like a few weeks, and some of them whatever. So yeah, but volunteer digs in general, like, they are easier because the purpose of them is probably teaching and or volunteering. It's not to like satisfy a planning condition, which is what commercial archaeology is for. So like in commercial archaeology, you can't sit around. You need to get stuff done, and you can't always take lots of time to train people to what they're doing. Yeah, unless you're specifically doing a community dig, as I've mentioned. So right, not everything. Are you wearing Volar's watch? Ha 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 ha. No, this is my Garmin watch that my husband got me for Christmas this year, because I actually had one of his old watches, which was like a chonky, a very, very chonky Garmin watch that was for men, and I think he got this for he had gotten one for his mom, and she wasn't like super fussed on it, so and it was basically similar to what I got. He was like, would you like to have it instead? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And it's quite useful. It's really good for waking me up in the morning without, like, with the vibrating of the watch. It's really nice. I liked that movie too. So results of the poll are in. 69% of you haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, guys. Like, come on. I was there on opening night. Also, like, big scoop, not really. I did attempt to actually, like, get Disney to invite me to the premiere. Slash, if you've seen my video on Dial of the Destiny, I was like this close to being an extra on it, which would have been the highlight of my life and is one of my life's biggest regrets that I didn't end up on it. That's gonna just haunt me forever, basically. That I didn't have myself, that I didn't realize that was happening and volunteer early enough to make it onto it, because that would have been a lifetime story of bragging rights, and it would have been amazing. But that's fine. Aw, Kaylee, that's so nice. Kaylee gave me a super chat. Thanks, Kaylee. You're too generous and you're too nice. Kaylee and I have been trying to do a collaboration for ages. So when we met up this week, I was like, we're doing it. So yes, I'm going to hopefully have her on Ask an Archaeologist. I know that, she's a history influencer, so I'm going to bring her on Ask an Archaeologist, even though she doesn't have a degree in archaeology. That's fine. I don't care. She's fantastic, and we're going to have her on the channel. Lonely One saw Dial of Destiny 6 times. Good job. You're doing it for everybody else. I appreciate that. I have not seen it 6 times, but I did go on opening night. I did find the emails of the Disney press team and email them in May to ask them if they would be interested in having me come and interview people on the red carpet for the UK premiere of the show. And after initially telling me that thanks for getting in touch, we'll be in touch with you, they got back to me and said, no, we are full and we can't fit any more people in. And the person that was responding to me to me about that was their influencer manager. So I suspect that part of the reason why I didn't end up getting to do it was because I don't have enough influence. I don't know, which was really, I'm not gonna lie, I was not happy about that. I had a bit of I spoke a little while back about times when I've doubted about keeping the channel going, and when I got turned down for that was that was definitely a moment where I was like, why am I still doing this when I can't even get to see the Indiana Jones premiere and be in the same breathing space as Harrison Ford? But it's fine. I'm totally over it now. I'm just doing some stickers onto some hieroglyphs onto my thing. Some very inaccurate hieroglyphs. There's a skull here. Here, let's see if I can. This one will be better. There's a skull in these hieroglyphs. These don't mean anything. Fair enough. Yeah. Dun dun dun. Blue Harvest Toy saw it dressed as Indy. Well done. If you're not on my Instagram, go follow my Instagram. But I dressed up in all of my archaeology stuff. So I wore this shirt. I have a sweater that has the same thing. I had this necklace on. I put on my Eye of Horus ring that I bought when I was in Egypt many years ago. And I went with all my friends. It was great. I have an archaeology bag that my coworkers bought me when I left my archaeology job, which is really cool. Yeah. History with Kaylee. Oh, you're so nice to me, girl. Oh God. Also, on talking about the movies and going to see movies, I'm ready for Barbenheimer tomorrow. I did my nails today, which I will say is a luxury you don't get to have when you work in field archaeology, because it dries your hands out like crazy and your nails always look horrible. So I am going to see Barbenheimer tomorrow, and I am very excited. Barbie first, Oppenheimer first, and then Barbie. So I think that's the right way to do it. We have another question. So what is the different disciplines that you can take in archaeology? For example, do art archaeologists exist? Yes, there's, so, again, big question. Let's see. Lots of different things that you can specialize in archaeology. Basically, you can specialize in just about anything. You can be a geoarchaeologist, so that's a person that looks at stratigraphy and specifically like looks at the ground and what makes up the ground and what can that tell us about different things. That's a really horrible explanation of geoarchaeology, so apologies if you're a geoarchaeologist. You could be an osteologist like me, who's somebody that specializes in human remains and digging those up and then analyzing them. You can look at their sex, their age at what they died, did they have any diseases, you know, what can we tell about their life from their skeleton, etc. You can have archaeologists that specialize in different civilizations, so that's someone like an Egyptologist, and within that, you know, they will probably specialize on a particular period of Egypt because there's so much of it, you can't really specialize in all of it. You can have linguistics people who are specialists in different languages and like interpreting texts and stuff like that. You can have art historians. I don't know if that's like, you can have people in archaeology whose specialty is ancient Egyptian art, for example, and they're an archaeologist. But you can also have people who are art historians who will probably specialize in like Roman statues or something like that, or different types of art. So basically, yeah, if there's a thing that you're interested in history, you can probably be a specialist in it is really the answer. Yeah. We spoke about this briefly on Reddit. I'm sorry you didn't get to be part of indie history. I know, me too. Speaking of which, did you catch yourself in The Flash yet? No, I have not. My friend, who is like a filmophile person, went to go see it in theaters, and I told him which scene I was in, and he said it was in the first 10 minutes. So the scene that I'm in is in it, and but yes, I'm not a DC person. I'm sick of superhero movies. I'll be perfectly honest. They don't draw me to the cinema particularly anymore. So I was basically, I'm waiting for The Flash to come out on home video, because the other thing too is seeing it in a theater. I'm in an action sequence, so it's very fast paced. And I think that even if I had seen it in theaters, I probably wouldn't have been able to pick myself out, because it would have been like gone in like less than a second. But if I'm watching it at home, then I can probably like slow down the rate and look at it like frame by frame and pick myself out. So I'm waiting to do that. But if you've watched The Flash, I don't want to give I also don't know what the NDA. I did sign an NDA for it, so I don't really know how much I can or cannot talk about it. I think since the film is out, I can probably say like a few things about it, but I don't think I can like give tons of detail. Basically, there's a scene with Batman on his little motorbike, and he's chasing some bad guys through Gotham, which was Glasgow. That's where we were filming. We all called it on set Glasgotham. And there was one guy that did a really good like Christian Bale like Batman voice, who was doing like he's Scottish, so he was doing like Christian Bale's Batman but as a Scottish guy. It was hilarious. So yeah, there's that scene, that sequence. It's probably like, I'll bet you we spent like 6 days filming it. I bet you it's like 2 minutes in the film. Yeah, it was really cool. We spent like every day when you would finish on site, you would then you're not supposed, you can't take photos, you can't take videos when you're on set. There was no Hollywood people there. It was a stunt double who was doing all of the Batmobiling. Um, and but because we were in like a really public spot, we were in the middle of Glasgow. They there was lots of people hanging out of windows and like down the street where they'd cordoned it off, like looking and taking videos. So like I would basically like end my day on set, and then on that evening I would just spend like the evening looking through Twitter and picking myself out in videos that people took of the set. So I also wrote myself like a whole diary of the whole experience because I'd never done it before and whatever. I think I have links still somewhere of all the videos that I found on Twitter that I'm in, which if you weren't me, you could not tell it was me, but I know that I was there, so it's fine. I've also gone on to work as an extra in several other productions since I did this, because I had signed up through an extra agency. It wasn't for like a specific job. Well, I signed up for that specific job, but I was signed up for an agency, and then you get, if you do that, you then get like call outs whenever they need people, and you fit like the parameters for what they need in a supporting artist, as they are actually called. 1 second. Stickers require concentration. We have a sarcophagus. This doesn't match the film. What is this? Wait a second. This is an Indiana Jones set from Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's a sarcophagus, and oh right, okay, so there's sarcophagus. Okay, it's in the back. It's fine. It makes sense to me now. Oh, and I need to make this twice. Okay. Cool if you could be a consultant for that Tomb Raider show with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I know. I'm working on it. Actually, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, actually, Jordan Peterson, I don't know if that's entirely, it might be Jordan Peters. Basically, one of my latest Ask an Archaeologists with Jordan. She is a medieval archaeologist, and she's doing a PhD, which is doing polychromatic studies of early medieval statues. So polychromy is where you like look at a statue and see if it was painted, and if that's so, like what kind of paint was on it, and you can use a variety of techniques to determine it. But she has a side hustle as a consultant for film and TV. And since I've spoken to her, that's been sitting in the back of my mind of like, I can do that. So we shall see, guys. We shall see if I can swing that eventually, because it would be really cool to work with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I also love Tomb Raider, and it would be awesome to be a consultant on that, because I imagine it would be a really cool experience, and I like being on film sets. So, is Scotland big on Viking archaeology? I guess. I mean, I think it kind of depends on where you are, because obviously, like up north in Orkney and Shetland, Norse stuff, there's a lot more of it. That being, what is this? Oh, okay, I think this is explaining to me what I'm going to be making next. Oh, right. Okay, I get it. So, this is how far we are, guys. I have to, like, think about this in my brain. So we've got the, kind of the beginnings of the tomb, and then we've got this, like, little back bit, and we've got this bit where I can put a snake in it, and then if I tip this, the snakes come out the bottom. Oh, no! Snakes! We hate them. I hate snakes, actually. I think I probably got that from Indiana Jones, but I also just, they move in an unnatural way, and I don't like them. So, yeah. All right, we're on bag 3. bag 3. We're making good progress. This isn't going to take me 6 hours. I'm going to be able to eat dinner at some point. Yeah. So yeah, so Viking again is a bit of a misnomer because like a Viking is like an occupation. More accurate, it would be Norse, like Norse or, yeah, I guess Norse archaeology. Much more of a thing up there because that's where they like settled. That's where they had like the largest continuity. I have not personally worked on a Norse site to my knowledge. I don't think that there is big of a thing down here in Edinburgh. No, that could be wrong. I could be making that up. I don't know. I haven't worked on a site that I know of that is Norse. But yeah, farther north in Scotland, that's more of a thing because they tended to be farther north. So we'll leave it at that. We have an Indiana Jones figurine in this one. Woohoo! Look at him. He's got his whip. Fantastic. And his little hat. Maybe I could bring the hat out at the end if anybody wants to see the hat that I bought for my Dial of Destiny video. Fully intending to send it back because I'm not made of money and it was like £50. But I wore it and then my husband told me that I strangely like looked good in it. And then I asked Instagram if they agreed and people agreed. So I've kept it. So it's mine now. And it's in my bedroom, and at some point, if it's ever sunny again in Scotland, I might end up wearing it somewhere. I already saw Barbenheimer last night. Great! I did Oppenheimer first, Barbie second too. Strangely, I preferred Barbie by a wide margin. Yeah, like, I'm not expecting to love Oppenheimer. Fully expecting to come out of it feeling perhaps a little bit depressed about the state of the world, and nuclear arms and all that kind of stuff. But I still think it's going to be a really interesting film to watch. And I also like the idea of like going to see a film like that and then chasing it with Barbie. I think that's quite a fun concept. But I anticipate I will probably like Barbie more as well because it's Barbie. It's supposed to be a feel-good movie. JT Lewis says, wanted to say that it is impressive that you consistently get videos done. I've had to take a long break from it because of work/school. Yeah, it's not... It's a lot of work. So I would love to be able to still... Where did I put my... Oh, we're making the Ark now. Look at that. I would love to be able to put out, I was just saying this to Kaylee last night actually, I'd love to be able to put out multiple videos a week, a video once a week, but it's not sustainable for me. I just can't. I am, oh crap. Okay, give me 1 sec. I have to go get my Lego unsticker tool from wherever else it is in my house because I've just done my nails and I can't use them as tools. Okay, I'm back. That wasn't too much. Hello. My cat's just woken up. She's looking at me. Very cute. Oh, you're so adorable. Yes, you're so cute. I found it. Come on. There we go. Okay. What was I saying? Yes, would love to do a video once a week. The only time I've ever managed to do that without, like, dying is, when I was furloughed during COVID. So, I'm not furloughed. I currently work full time. I have a social life that I quite enjoy participating in. And yeah, so thank you. I will be going back to my every 2 weeks schedule basically from now, perhaps unless I have like something that I feel like really needs to go out like right now. Um, but yeah, it's not easy. It's like, it's also kind of interesting because, being creative, because it is creative, being creative on a regular basis is really hard to consistently churn things out. And like things have gotten easier for me as I've gotten more used to it, and I've bought or gotten better equipment for that's allowed me to do it a lot more easily. But it's yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. Especially, and I know I kind of hate, well, I say hate this about myself. That is like a very strong word to use. That's not what I mean to say, but I know I always go out on about money, and I am kind of sick of myself talking about it as well. But I would love to do YouTube full time or like part time, even like going my job if I was if it was feasible for my job currently, for me to go part time so that I could work on YouTube, and then I would be able to put out a video once a week. But the issue with that is that I would have to take a pay cut, which I would also like to own a house. I would like to get a mortgage at some point, and I basically get paid about £10 a month currently from AdSense, and get paid £10 a month, and then you have to make £60 before they actually pay it out to you. So for almost the entire time that I've had my channel, I get paid every 6 months roughly every 6 months I get paid £60. So that's just, I can't justify it. Like the amount of time and effort that I would have to put into it versus how much I would get back from it, I just haven't been able to justify it yet. So that is why you should subscribe to my channel and you should comment and you should share my videos and blah, 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 because if my channel grows and if I can get more people watching, etc., and I can actually start making enough money that I wouldn't have to take a huge pay cut, because to take it like that, I wouldn't have to take a huge pay cut in order to make more videos, then I would do it. I would 100% do it. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, follow me on Instagram, comment, etc. I am also going to I'll talk about this more at the end with my announcement that I'm making, but I have started a Ko-fi, which is where one of those things where people can tip you basically for making your videos, because obviously AdSense doesn't give you a lot of money anymore ever since Adpocalypse or whatever it was. So I have started that, and it will be going up on future and probably past videos. So if anybody feels generous, if anybody has the disposable income and they feel like they would like to help me get to a point where I could put out videos more regularly and really like grow the channel into something more full time that I could do something with, then you will be more than happy to donate. But please don't do that if you can't afford it, because that would be awful. And as somebody who works in an industry that is notorious for the fact that we get paid crap, please don't waste your money on me if you can't afford it. You got to visit Gotham. That's pretty, Glasgotham. It was pretty cool. They were telling me when we were on set that lots of films and TV shows film in Glasgow from America, because apparently it resembles old-time New York. Really, like it, or it's very close to looking like old-time New York. So like a lot of period dramas end up filming there. There's the, what's it called? Outlander films just outside of Glasgow. I think I've also heard that the Glasgow Council doesn't charge a lot of money for productions to film in Glasgow, so it's like a cost-effective place for them to go as well, which is part of the reason why they do it. And of course, we're all very like nice and lovely. So, yeah. So if you have seen one of the Gods of Egypt movie, what did you think of it as far as historical accuracy? I have not seen Gods of Egypt. I think I saw snippets of it, and I was like, ooh, I don't think this is for me. But maybe I'll put it on the list to watch for the channel, and then I can do a review for you guys that's a bit more accurate. Yes, I don't think accurate movies when it comes to archaeology don't tend to exist. The closest would be The Dig, which was done by Netflix a few years ago. It's got Ralph Fiennes in it, and it's about an Anglo-Saxon dig that they did in the 1920s or something like that, that found a really famous find in South England. That's great. One of my favorite archaeology movies, which I also haven't seen in a really, really long time, is Timeline. That came out when I was young, and it's got Gerard Butler in it before he was famous. And it's about a bunch of people on a, if you haven't seen, it's based on a book. I can't remember who the author is, but it's based on a book, and it's about a bunch of people on an archaeological dig who then get asked to go through a time machine because they're the archaeologists. So like basically a company's discovered a time machine, and they find these archaeologists because the time machine goes back to like the area that they're digging, and they ask them to like go back in time and see what's happening, because they're like, well, these people know this era, so they would be the best people to send because they have the most knowledge about it. And yeah, this like group of people gets sent back in time, and shenanigans ensue. And I really loved that movie as a kid, and I do need to rewatch it for the channel, hopefully. Okay, we're making progress here. My little temple is going here. I'll maybe just try and keep it this way so that you guys can see. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of showing you the Lego, but I don't know if that's really what anyone's here for. So yeah. What's your worst fear? Snakes, bugs, or rats? I don't know, all three. If you're asking me out of the three, I really don't like bugs. I really, really don't like bugs. I always kill spiders. I'm not a spider savior. I had an experience when I was a child where we had some bugs like in our basement, and they were like crawling on our floor, and ever since then they just give me the heebie-jeebies. I luckily haven't come across snakes that often, because they are not a huge feature of where I live or have dug before, but there were asps on our site in Jordan, but they were down at the bottom of the hill that we were on. They weren't anywhere close to me, so I never actually saw any. And it was my understanding that when they did see them on site, our Bedouin who were working with us basically went up and killed them before they were like a threat. I've only ever seen a scorpion once. And that one was when I was doing research for my master's thesis in Bulgaria. And it was really sad. Like so the rule with scorpions, which is accurate. Oh, have I done this right? Yes, okay, I have. The thing with scorpions, which Indiana Jones actually talks about in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and is one of the few accurate things that he says, is that the smaller and clearer, basically the more that they blend in with their surroundings, the more dangerous they are. And the more likely it is that you will die if they sting you, which is 100% true. And so I was on this field school analysis like lab season for my master's thesis in Bulgaria. And it was myself and one of the PhD students had both worked in the Middle East before. And so we knew like the standard shtick about scorpions, but nobody else had done it. There was a couple of us there, and there was a scorpion at one point that came out of like a bag that we had some skellies in, and it was like a tiny little brown scorpion. So that's the no type. So the one of the people on our dig was like, "Oh no, I'll just leave it. I'll put it somewhere safe." And then she was like trying to do something, and then Phil, the PhD student, just basically came up behind her with the textbook and went like whap and just smushed it with the vegetarian's textbook. That was good. I always remember that part of it, and she was a bit like, "Oh no." But yeah, that wasn't really a question of we're going to let it live. But actually, more so than spiders and snakes and bugs, I hate flying. That's probably one of my biggest fears that I've tried to kind of not overcome. I don't really know if it's something I can overcome, but that's kind of one of the things that I'm trying to get a better grip on, because man, I hate getting on planes. I hate it. So, yeah, it would be good to eventually be able to get over that and get to a point where I don't feel like I'm having a panic attack every time. Well, not a panic attack, where I'm not an absolute like nervous wreck every single time I get onto a plane. Legos have evolved. Lego Archaeology. Maybe one day. I mean, they're pretty fun. Pretty good at multitasking. Build is coming along. I know. I want to be able to finish this tonight, because when I did my Lego pyramid set like last year, because my husband got me that for my birthday last year, and I turned it into a video on the channel. You can go watch it if you're so inclined. That took me 2 days. I thought it was going to take me a day, and then it all of a sudden spread out over 2 days, and I was like, oh crap. And so I was hoping that this wasn't going to take me nearly as long, because I haven't eaten dinner yet, and as lovely as everybody is and has been to me so far, which I very much appreciate, I will have to stop at some point to go eat, which is probably when I will end the stream, and I would really like to complete this as like my thing before we end. So yeah, I have always been like quite a multitasker, I guess. And I am quite, in case you haven't noticed, I'm a huge hand talker. I can't help myself. I just talk with my hands like all the time. Kaylee and I were talking about this last night. She was talking about it, and I'm now noticing that I do it. But you don't see it in a lot of my videos, because I'm usually like holding, right now, like a remote in my hands for my teleprompter. So like that keeps my hands down. I don't know if anybody else has watched That Mitchell and Webb Look, which is a sketch show from the UK. That is hilarious, and if you haven't watched it, and you can watch it, you should. But they have a whole segment in it about like a history presenter who's like waving his hands about like all the time, and that always makes me think of myself. Like if I were ever to be on TV, I would be so self-conscious about that. Where is this piece? Don't think it's supposed to be. I've got these 2 gray pieces and not these 2 black pieces. Where is it? Oh, whatever. Okay. Viking means going raiding, go trading, depending on what the intention most of the time. Both first raid, then sell raided goods back to the raided. Yes. Joachim Kylehammer is on the ball. Viking is a calling. It's not necessarily an entire race of people. Norse archaeology. Daniel Sargent, you made it. Well done. I'm sorry if I'm really behind on the comments, guys. I'm just, multitasking. So, I'm hoping in the future I will be able to do it again. Right now, I am still getting my PhD. I do CRM on the side and just try to field questions on social media. Yeah, exactly. Well done. Well done on getting your PhD. You're stronger than me, man. It's yeah, never been something that appealed to me. Honestly, I am too lazy. I am too lazy to do a PhD. I watched my husband do like it's never been something that I wanted to do, and then I basically watched my husband do a PhD, and that cemented that it is something that I never want to do. And I have heard a lot of horror stories from people about their negative experiences. You know what? Screw it. I'm just going to use these, and if I need to undo it later, I just got to do it later. Whatever. Yeah, I've heard lots of horror stories about people doing PhDs and, you know, their supervisor's a dick or they didn't get the support that they wanted or needed. And, look at this one second. And yeah, it just sounds like it was a miserable time for many of those involved. And, at the end of it, you know, it used to be that, like, doing a PhD, you could probably expect that you'd get, like, a decent job afterwards, but it's really not the case anymore. Everybody's got a PhD nowadays. There's less academic jobs out there. It's more competitive to get them. And, yeah, people, so, like, the payoff from getting your PhD is not nearly the same as, like, what it used to be, like, I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. So it's just never been something that I have wanted to do myself, but 100% recognize and respect the people who do end up getting it. You are much more dedicated and hardworking than I am. Is it true that Scottish people tend to spend money sparingly? Yes, Scottish people are cheap. I don't think that that's being mean, but yes, we I say we. I suppose I technically am Scottish. Well, actually, no, I am Scottish. My family history is Scots and stuff. But yeah, we don't like to spend money if we don't have to, basically. And I suppose that also goes for me as well, is that I'm cheap. Like, the amount of stuff that I like for my channel or like my YouTube and my Instagram that I'm like, things would probably be a lot easier for me if I just like sucked it up and paid for certain things, but I refuse. So an example of this is I had somebody comment a long time ago that basically my videos were awful because I had too many jump cuts, because I basically, how I have been doing videos for the vast majority of my time on YouTube is I would like write myself kind of like notes, not like a script, but like notes of like, these are the things that I want to talk about and in this order, etc. And then I would have that on like a notebook or a laptop, right beside my camera, and I would like half memorize it and then talk to a screen. I messed up a lot. And I said all the time. And so I had so many of these like jump cuts, I guess that's the proper term for them, in my editing process, because I was just like, I sound like an idiot if I'm keeping in all of these ums. So this person commented and very rudely brought to my attention that it was distracting for that person, which, I don't know, like, I'm grateful that somebody pointed it out to me because it led to me improving, but also they were a dick about it. And I mean, I'm open to constructive criticism from people, but I really, like, I don't know why people like feel the need to be rude about things when they're pointing out something like that. Like, the way that this person addressed it, and way I've had other people like talk to me sometimes about my channel on the back of things, I'm just kind of like, really? Like, just people are so rude. But anyways, so that pointed out to me how bad my style was. So I wanted to get a teleprompter. I looked them up online. They're like not cheap. Like a good one is not cheap. They're hundreds of pounds. I'm not spending that. So I then instead looked up and found a YouTube tutorial that was how to make a teleprompter at the dollar store. And I basically made myself a DIY teleprompter at home for less than £10, which I've been using for a while now, and only just replaced it literally the other week because I was on Facebook Marketplace and somebody advertised that they had a good quality, like, at-home mobile teleprompter for sale that was £10. And I looked it up, and it is originally like over £100 or something like that, and they live near me. So I was like, can I have this please? Are you still selling it? And they said yes. So I went and picked it up, and I used it in my latest video that I've recorded, which is going to come out tomorrow, which is on the Netflix Unknown The Lost Pyramid program that came out the other week. So mark that in your calendars. And it's made my life so much easier. So yeah, like probably so many things about my channel could be made easier if I just like sucked it up and bought better equipment or like a subscription to Adobe Premiere Pro, but but no, as with many things in my life, I have chosen to do it on hard, and yeah. That's just one of my worst qualities, is that I just refuse. I'm like, I don't need to like pay to do this or whatever. I'll just figure out how to do myself for free. Except it's going to like also subsequently take me like twice the amount of time and effort. So yeah. As someone starting my archaeology degree this October, what's the best piece of advice that you can think of? Ask questions. So this is for Daniel Sargent. Yeah, so my advice would be ask questions. Don't be afraid to put your hand up. Don't be afraid to go and talk to someone after a lecture. That's one of the things about like modern school is that a teacher will say, oh, who knows about ancient Egypt? And the entire class has, but nobody raises their hand. So like be that person to raise your hand, and also just like you are your own like best advocate. And if you want something, go after it, speak up about it. So my example for this is when I went to Jordan the first year, I to that point had never done anything to do with osteology. I hadn't taken like a skeletal osteology class. Like I didn't know anything about the human skeleton, etc. And in my square that I was excavating, we found some medieval medieval Islamic burials. And our dig had an osteologist who, she was from a different university, and she kind of had her own like semi-separate dig of a crypt that she brought her own students on. But when we found stuff on our dig, she would come in to handle it for us. So she kind of piggybacked onto our dig, because hers was quite small, and hers was like 4 or 5 students, and ours was like 30 students. And so she came with her students, and we excavated these burials. And because it was like in my area, one of her students kind of like supervised it / taught me how to do it, and I got to do it alongside them. And from that point on, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Like I just loved it. I thought it was great. I really liked the kind of intricate detail that you need to, and like the precision that you need to have when you're excavating human remains, because their bones. You also need to like uncover them in situ and like record them that way before you like take them out. So I then spent the next, I don't know, a lot of our dig sucking up to this professor like crazy. So every time that I was like speaking to her, I'd be like, oh, I think this is so interesting. I think this might be what I want to do for my master's, et cetera, et cetera. Like, oh, maybe I could like come and like, I don't know if I asked to go on her dig, but I was just like, yeah, I was just sucking up to her like every opportunity that I could get. And it led to eventually at one point near the end of the season, she was like, do you want to come to my site for one day and see what it's like and try digging there? And I was like, 100% yes, like I would love to do that. But it caused a bit of an issue because she offered that to me, and this is kind of where the point of my story is going. On the other side of it, there was someone else on the dig who I like knew. Well, we all know each other, so that's kind of the wrong way of saying that. But there was someone else on the dig who had taken osteology courses, was interested in doing osteology for their master's as well. And she was upset that she hadn't been invited to go onto this professor's dig and do this. And I don't know if she really complained, but like she was not happy about it. And it was pointed out that I guess like they shouldn't be offering it to me if they're not going to offer it to other people as well. And in the end of it, like at the end of the day, they said anybody who's interested in going to the Osteo site, like let us know and we'll try and figure out getting you there, which is fine. But again, I feel like that's just like, this is like I said, like speak up and be your own best advocate. And like, if you're interested in something, let people know, because she just kind of thought, because like she was interested and she would have loved to do that, but she didn't tell anybody. And she just kind of assumed that, you know, if she was interested in it, she should get a chance. Well, that's not the right way to say that, but she was just basically, she thought like, oh, well, anybody who's an osteo should get this opportunity, which is correct. But she was upset because I got offered the opportunity and I didn't have any of the experience, and she was upset that she didn't get offered it. And it's like, well, they didn't know that you were interested in that, so that you can't, it's like those things where it's like you just assume that people know these things, and that's not the case. Like you have to tell people, you have to communicate these things to people. So yeah, that's my really long-winded answer for that. If you want to do something, don't shut up about it. Timeline was a Michael Crichton novel. Yes, that's the author. Asps. Yes, asps are really dangerous. I like, again, the UK is very safety focused, especially in commercial archaeology, because you're on construction sites. Like safety is a big thing. And I think back at some of the stuff that like happens on field schools, and I'm just like, how did they get away with that? Like that's so dangerous. Like we had scorpions possibly on site. I never saw a scorpion on site when I was in Jordan, but we had scorpions, and then there were asps, and we did not have refrigeration. Like the antidotes for those things need to be kept like refrigerated, and we didn't have a refrigerator on our site. We did not have power. So like if you got stung by a deadly scorpion, you're screwed. It's never happened to my knowledge. Maybe it's just not that common a thing, but yeah, it's like, that was crazy. My old shed has a pocket rattlesnake. Good for your shed. I will stay far away from that. Do I visit home often? Sort of. I go back to Canada every other Christmas. My husband and I, we trade Christmases with families. So, because I want to spend my Christmas with him, I don't want to have to spend it without. So for quite a long time, we've been doing the alternate Christmas thing. And then usually at some point in between Christmases, I'll visit during the summer. Again, usually with my husband. Both of us currently work from home, and that is one of the really nice things about having an office job versus being an archaeologist, is that because I work from home, I can work from anywhere. So now if I want to, I could fly back to my parents' house, and I have worked from my parents' house for my work while visiting them, and that's a much easier way to do it. But anyway, we've finished our first Anubis statue. Very exciting. So I will say, he's got this this tongue feature, and in the movie he's got like his jaws wide open. And I didn't comment on this in my Raiders of the Lost Ark video. I don't think that is a proper style of Egyptian statuary for Anubis. I haven't seen any statues where he's been like, rah! I've only ever seen him with like a closed mouth, but I could be wrong. So, okay, I'm supposed to put this on here, but I've skipped a step. Oh, I'm too distracted by being famous on the internet because everyone's showing up for my stream. It's too crap. Let's see. Okay, got this. Oh, I also need to. What else do I need to add on here? Oh, he needs a hat. Preemptive, guys. He needs to have his hat first. Where's his hat? 7 o'clock. Okay. It means I've been doing this for about 2 hours now, and I'm like 3/4 of the way full. So that's pretty good. All right, now we have the full statue, and he's got his full thing. Yes, this is Anubis. So anybody who's not into ancient Egypt, Anubis is the jackal-headed god of the dead. Well, sort of god. He's the jackal-headed god of the underworld. He kind of serves as a guide in some ways, if I'm correct, like to help you through the underworld. And ultimately, he's the guy who weighs your heart at the end of your journey to determine if you're allowed into the afterlife or not. And he's also like the god of mummification and stuff. So yeah, he is a god of the dead. They don't really have there's multiple gods of the dead. So the Egyptians have a huge pantheon of gods. All right, so we're going to put this. I'm going to put this on here. Fabby. Okay. Oh, and he rotates. Whoa, fun. My webcam is just focusing horribly. So apologies for that. There we go. That's a little bit better. Oh, and it's raining outside. Classic Edinburgh. Nobody's surprised. You should start a t-shirt line. I definitely buy one. Yeah, I know. This is why I put up a community post on my channel a while back. I'm just going to open this bag and it's really loud, so give me 2 seconds. T-shirts. Yes. So this t-shirt is my own design, and I have another one in my wardrobe it's got like the 3 types of column capitals, Ionic, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, and then it says capitalist underneath it. I had these both made at a local like t-shirt printing store in Edinburgh, and then I asked if people were interested in buying them, and I had like 13 responses, so I never did anything with it. I had someone suggest once that I should put the design up on like Redbubble, and then people could buy it, and I think then I get like a commission off of the purchase, which I've thought about. I've not had time to investigate doing it. I've thought about it, but I don't really know if Redbubble is good quality. I've not really ever bought anything off there yet, and I don't want to sell things to people if it's not going to be good quality. And I like this t-shirt that I've had made is excellent. Like that, I've washed this so many times, and the print is still entirely intact. It's not broken anywhere. Like it, and the t-shirt's nice and soft. Like it's great. So I would love to, maybe I should do like a pre-order. Let me know if you guys think that would be interesting. Doing like a pre-order, so you kind of, you commit that yes, I'm going to get it, you tell me your size, and then I can kind of put an order in and get them for people, for the Archaeologist or whatever, the capitalist one, and then look into it. The other thing as well is obviously shipping. I am in the UK, so if you're based in, well, I know from the analytics that the majority of my audience is based in the US, so I don't know if it would maybe be easier to figure, like that's a whole thing that also has to get figured out. But yes, it is my intention one day to offer merchandise of some sort. I just need to figure out exactly what, and obviously, like, I don't know, you know, being a YouTuber, you don't make lots of money in AdSense. You make money off of sponsorships and sales, and you have to sell people stuff. And I have worked as a salesperson at a bookstore and at an electronics store. We have Marion also now. Marion's in the mix. And I am not a well, it's not that I'm not a natural salesperson. Don't like selling things to people that they don't need and or just to make money. Like, I've worked in a commission-based sales environment before, and I wasn't very good at it because I'm not very convincing. So I don't want to offer something to people unless I know that it's going to be worth good quality and it's going to be worth your money. So that's something that I have to figure out. But if you are potentially interested in buying a t-shirt like this, or this would be something that you'd be interested in as well, let me know. Scottish, we are here to view the tapestries. Yeah. Oh, I rolled my, like, I watched all of the Indiana Jones movies by myself in June. My husband was away doing things. And like, he's an engineer, he's not an archaeologist, so like, you know, he does, I don't even think he's seen Last Crusade, so I really should have actually made him watch that one. But I, having now lived in Scotland for almost 10 years, for basically 10 years, I'm married to a Scottish person. You know, his whole family lives in the lives in Scotland. I cannot do a good Scottish accent. I will never claim to doing that because, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. I have been told that sometimes when I speak, I sound like there's some words or phrases that I say that I have like a Scottish like lilt to how I like pronounce my vowels sometimes. And of course I've done this the wrong way. Perfect. But yeah, the Harrison Ford's Scottish accent, pretty garbage. Obviously, it was supposed to be fake. I would not have expected his accent to be real in that, or to be authentic. But I would have thought that if he was spending all that time with Sean Connery, it might have been a bit better, maybe a bit more convincing. I don't know. So your videos are not even close to awful. I've enjoyed them all. None of the editing ever stood out to me as bad. Thank you for saying that. I do make an effort. I am slowly trying to improve my quality. I've obviously never been to film school. I've never learned video editing professional or done it professionally. And yeah, everything that I've learned has either been somebody on my channel being like, oh, this is crap, you should do it this way, or I'm like, oh, I have an idea, and then I have to spend all this time like researching how I can do it for free. So this is just a Lego tomb or a pyramid with tomb? No, this is the Lego, it's a Raiders of the Lost Ark set. So I think it's supposed to be, it's the bit where you find the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark. The Ark is here. I didn't do a very good job of showing you guys. Sorry, this is the Ark. This is, yeah, this guy here. This is supposed to be the bit where they find it in the movie. But you ask about a pyramid. I do have the Lego Great Pyramid set. I got it last year for my birthday. I built it on the channel. I did a whole video about the actual building of the pyramids. And I really enjoyed making that video. And like 500 people have watched it, which is nice, but it should be more. So go watch it if you'd like to learn about the Great Pyramid and how it was built while I build the Lego version. How often do you use x-rays or imaging in your specialty, and do you have to do a lot of work in radiology as a part of your specialty? Most of what I do, if you're an osteologist, you're examining remains physically in the ground, and there is no x-ray because there is nothing to x-ray because it's a skeleton. So you don't need to x-ray it because the bones are there. You can see them. The only times you don't generally have that is if you have like more recent human remains, so like Victorian cemeteries or burials, but I don't think that you'd do x-ray for that most of the time. X-rays being used on human remains in archaeology is something that I've only really ever heard of being done in Egypt, where they're trying to look inside of coffins because they don't want to either open the coffin or take the remains out because they're too delicate. So, but they want to see what's inside. The only instance that I know that a project that I worked on has used x-ray was, again, this Carnoustie Bronze Age weapons hoard with the spearhead and the gold. When we took it back to the lab, they did an x-ray, I believe, on it before they started excavating it so they could get an idea of what was inside. And obviously that was for the metal as well. Because it was a metal find, doing an x-ray is actually helpful because it helps you see a lot of stuff. So I don't do okay, I'm gonna end the poll now. Oops. And I've not really done imaging. Again, I've not done imaging. Imaging is, that kind of stuff costs a lot of money. And your average project doesn't have money for that, or it doesn't need it. You have to be able to justify spending that cost. And x-raying something, like, you can't take an x-ray into the field and put it in the ground. That's not how x-ray machines work. So we don't use them in the field, and we excavate things. So we uncover them completely and then we take them out of the ground. So more often than not, you don't need to excavate them because you've already uncovered them. I think that makes sense. Let me know if you want to, if I need to elaborate more on that answer. Oh, my neighbor upstairs, their fire alarm is going, so that's fun. Hopefully the building doesn't burn down while we're doing the Lego. Ugh. Just dropped a piece. Does X ever mark the spot? No, not in my experience. We haven't, like, I've never come across a treasure map. I've never come across something that directly says I've never come across something that gives you directions to where something is going to be. It's a lot of interpretation and guesswork of documents a lot of the time. I'm supposed to have a blue, there it is. Yeah, it would be nice if X marked the spot, because that would make our jobs a lot easier. Let's be honest. But no, it doesn't, unfortunately. Crap. Okay. So this goes here. And this goes here. Cool. What is the average cost for an expedition? Materials, place to stay, transport. can't give you a number. It depends. I can tell you the kind of things you need to budget for. So, if you're on a commercial dig, you're costing this to a client, and then they will either employ you or not based on that cost. Just give me a sec. I've got to insert this. Oh, this is going to be not easy, is it? Okay. Oh no, I did. No, I did it backwards. Crap. Yes. This is strange. Okay. And then, is this supposed to, oh, it's supposed to go backwards. Okay. That's fine. All right, so we've got another wall. Woo! Well, I've got to put snakes in the floor. All right, so budget. So if you're in a commercial archaeology, your biggest cost is going to be people, wages. So a dig or a company, they have a day rate. Most companies have similar day rates, or else they're not competitive. So say it's like £100 per day per archaeologist. It also can depend. You also have to account for transport costs. You have the cost of the accommodation where you're staying. You have however long that they're going to be there. You know, some digs are longer or shorter than others. It also depends on how thorough the dig has to be, and that is a condition that will be set by the local authority. So that's like the local council or something like that. They will say you have to excavate this much of the site, and then the archaeologist will tell you it's going to take us that long to, or the archaeologist, when they put their bid in, they say that's how long we think it's going to take. You know, equipment most companies own, so they don't often have to pay out of pocket for that, like for every dig. If you have specialist equipment, that might be the case. So that might be like a special kind of GPS. When I was leaving archaeology, GPS was like mostly, it was still in the process of being like largely adopted on commercial, like more and more commercial. I could say probably all commercial sites are probably now using GPS to map out their sites and stuff like that. But it was still not everyone owned their own GPSs when I was still working in archaeology. So renting that was be a cost that you have to account. Like I was mentioning at the very beginning, subsistence. So that's the money that you have to pay people. So, you know, if you're staying in a hotel, that means that they can buy themselves dinner at night. If you're, if they're staying in the self-catering, then that means that they have enough money to buy groceries so they can cook their own meals. You know, if you're on a field school, you usually have a grant to cover your site, and that will have to cover, I presume it probably costs you money to get permits, flights, accommodation. If you have workers, so like in Jordan, we had local Bedouin who like lived right next to our site, who would come and work for us every summer. And we would pay them to do that. I can't say that we paid them very much. I think that it was probably on par for like wages in that region. I wouldn't say that I don't think that we like scalped them. I certainly don't think that we probably would have paid them as much as if they were like archaeologists working in the UK or something like that. But yeah, those costs. Insurance, that'll be a big one as well. You need to make sure that you have that. Yeah, that's Anubis seems to be waiting for, okay. Yeah, I think that's yeah, average cost. It can be thousands of pounds. It could be hundreds of pounds. You know, if you're just doing, there are digs in the UK that are volunteer run digs that just go run like over the space of a weekend, and they're being done entirely by volunteers and an archaeologist, and it's their passion project, and it probably only costs them like a very small amount of money to do. But bigger projects, yeah, they need the funding, and they can be into the thousands and tens of thousands of pounds, especially if you're going to be coming back year after year after year. Some places like will buy dig houses. Some places have you stay in hotels. My digs in Jordan, we stayed in a hotel, so that was obviously like a bit more expensive. And then you have the fact that we were flying to Jordan from Canada, which is more expensive than if we were going on a. There was another dig that was offered by my school. That was the I think it was for like the history and prehistory students, so people that were focused on like Canadian archaeology. They did a field school that was they camped for their accommodation, so it was a lot cheaper than my field school because they didn't have to pay to live in a hotel and stuff. So yeah. Average Anubis looks like he's on the attack. Seems to be waiting for a bone to be thrown at him, probably. More like a heart that has been judged unworthy by the feather of Ma'at. And that is a really nerdy reference, but that's fine because I'm pretty sure we're all pretty nerdy over here. Anubis also somewhere Anpu, God of Funerary Rites, Protector of Graves, Guide to the Underworld, Embalmer. Yes. I said all those things, so I'm glad to know that I am right. It's always validating to know that something that I've half remembered from something that I studied 10 years ago is still correct. I still got it. Hi, Rachel. Soraya says, I really like your content. It's cool you're doing this stream. Thank you, Soraya. That's very nice of you to say, and I hope that you're still on the stream. I think I'm probably way behind on answering questions for people that are here, but I clearly like to wobble, and I can talk a lot for a long time on a lot of niche subjects. I can clearly go on lots of rants. Your explanation on x-rays and imaging makes sense. Thank you for sharing. I asked, I thought it was really unique to say them take a portable x-ray machine into a burial shaft in Egypt. Yeah, see, Egypt does that kind of stuff. We don't do that stuff in the UK. So yeah, interesting to know that they have the portable x-ray. Yeah, I've never heard of that being used on a UK site, so there, you proved me wrong. I said that you don't take x-rays out into the field, and they do. Dun 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 dun. Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, the Roman number X did mark the spot. Yes, that is very true. That was shown in the documentary I mentioned on Netflix, Unknown the Lost. Only really seeing in Egypt. Is it in there? Did they bring an x-ray machine in? I did not clock that. That must have been while they were doing the conservator stuff. Or it might have been, actually, that was probably a 3D imaging machine, not an x-ray. So there is a, I've seen them do it in the National Museum of Scotland. When you're taking 3D models of stuff, you have like this, I don't know, it's like those scanners that you have at the grocery store for things. And you basically just do it very slowly, and it takes a 3D model, like replica of the, whatever it was. I suspect... I'll have to look at the documentary because I watched it on Saturday morning and I was like making notes, so it's entirely possible that I missed it. But I suspect that what they had was, yeah, a 3D machine that they were taking a 3D model of the coffins. They could have been X-raying it, I suppose, to see if there was gold inside. But I suspect they were probably making a 3D model of the coffins and scanning them before they opened them. But yeah, feel free to correct me if they said it was an x-ray machine, because again, that's just my guess. Just goes to show that some things there's just some things that like you're so used to things you just don't notice them. So yeah, I just didn't even notice the x-ray. I did notice when I was watching it at one point that the guy was like, oh, I wonder if there's something in here. And he's like looking to see if there's something, and he's literally reaching past a skull. There's just like a skull sitting in a spoil heap. And he's like, oh, I wonder if there's something in here. And I was just like, yeah? I'm pretty sure that you just looked right past something that was important, but okay. Have you ever been in a scary situation while out in the field? Locals, collapsing architecture, booby traps, etc. Yeah. Um, so the thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is when I was working in Canada, in between my undergraduate and my master's, during the summer. Going into spring, into summer, we had a really stormy set of circumstances, stormy weather at that time. And we're building the second Anubis statue, by the way. Let me just put this here. And I'm talking like thunderstorms, not just like it rains. So you would be, and the thing is you're out in the field, in a field in the middle of nowhere. You're carrying shovels, which are big metal objects. You have tripods, and you're the tallest thing around. And like at some points you would just see the thunderstorm, because I'm from Ontario. I was working in Ontario, in the region around Lake Huron at this point, and you would just see the thunderstorm like coming off the lake. And because it's archaeology and things are a bit cowboyish sometimes, they would leave it pretty close to tell you to, like, all right, we're gonna go, we've got to stop work now. So you would be like, you would watch the storm coming closer and closer, and then they would finally say, all right, like, put your tripod down, let's get back into the cars. And then like you get into the car, and all of a sudden there's just like thunder and lightning, and it's like it was really close to you. And so that was pretty scary. I did not particularly enjoy doing that. I was also on a site in Scotland where, again, some pretty questionable health and safety. We were working next to like an upstanding building that they were renovating, and so we were kind of like excavating the garden, I guess you could think. And there was a gigantic like power line going, like an underground like pipe for power cables for bringing power into the building, and it was just in the ground like all the way across our site. It was completely exposed. And I don't know if I asked, but I know that at some point I was just like, oh, is that like, has that been shut off? Because obviously we're working around it, we were like digging around it and stuff like that. And I asked the person that was our project officer about it, and he was like, oh yeah, it should have been turned off. Like, and then at one point, he was excavating like right next to it, and he was getting closer and closer to it. I think he was trying to clean around it. I don't really know what he was doing, and I was not super far away, but I wasn't like very close, but I was close enough. And then he just nudged it, and it sparked, and like basically there was just like this giant woof, and there was just like it was still live, and that could have electrocuted somebody. They quickly shut it off after that happened. But yeah, that did not inspire confidence. That was pretty scary. I like kind of saw it coming. I saw that he was getting closer and closer and closer to it, and I was like, oh man, if that thing's not shut off, like, and like as soon as it happened, I just basically like dropped my whatever I was holding, and I just ran away. I was just like, I'm getting out of here. This is not worth getting electrocuted. Yeah, that was not my fun. I also did a survey up in the Highlands of Scotland at one point, where we were surveying. So this is like you walk around and you see if you notice anything historical. So it could be like a stone cairn, it could be a shepherd's hut or something. Oh, my cat's so cute. And yeah, you're just like looking in the area to see if you can see any archaeological features that are worth noting. It was up in the Highlands. It was the first weekend in May, and we were having thunder snowstorms. It was crazy. And again, archaeology, like we have this kind of like cowboy mentality of like, oh yeah, we can work through any weather. Like, oh, no problem. Like, oh, you're a wuss if you like wait unless you wait to the absolute like last second to like call it in or whatever. And the person that I was with was a woman, not a man, and was just like really determined that we do this. And we were just like, yeah, hiking through the highlands in like whiteout snowstorms. And you could hear the thunder around you and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to be here, but I also, like, I'm not in charge, so I can't call it. And, like, yeah, that was crazy. I have a really cool photo that she took of me on the mountainside, basically, where it looks, I'm walking downhill and you can't see anything, which was kind of nuts. And it's one of my favorite photos, actually. But yeah, booby traps. I've never come across a booby trap. I think booby traps are wildly overused in cinema about archaeology. I've never come across them. The only place that I know that definitely has booby traps is the tomb of the first emperor of China. They've like done a bunch of surveys and like as much as they can. His tomb has never been opened, but they've done some like surveys of it. I don't remember exactly what type, and they've basically it's just like full of mercury, and I'm not quite sure why they've never gone into it. It might just be that it has such significance still that the Chinese government don't want people going into it, so they're just not going to approve it. It might be that they don't feel like it's safe. It would be cool if that happened in my time. I mean, we know where it is, etc. We have all these like remote operating vehicles that we could use nowadays to do it. So yeah, if they managed to open his tomb in my lifetime, that would be pretty cool. Why have I done this the wrong way around? Have I done it the wrong way around? I'm getting distracted. I need to put this here. Just a second. I've totally redone this the wrong way. I thought that I was going to be finished this before 8 o'clock, and I'm definitely not. I don't think. Well, I might be actually close. Oh, God. It's fine. There's an extra one. There's always an extra piece of the Lego. I just have to make sure that I get it before my cat swallows it, and then makes me go to the animal hospital on a weekend because she has done that before. Not eaten Lego, but I've had to take her to the animal hospital before because she's eaten something that she wasn't supposed to. Because she's chaos. I think I probably did have these the right way around, and then I've just completely undone them. Great. All right. Have you ever been in a scary situation, done that? Feel free to take a break if you need to eat. Don't feel beholden to your apt audience. Okay, maybe I'll order myself something on Uber Eats. We'll see. They found a hidden corridor in one of the pyramids with the mapping techniques. Yes, so I did a small reel about this on my Instagram ages ago, and it is on Archaeology News in March, I think. This is a project, it's part of a wider project that's been going on for ages. It's called the Scan Pyramids Project, and I think it's a Japanese team and some other people as well, but they're using a technology that's called muon tomography. That's MUON. And it does something with light, and it allows you to scan things. So like the thing with the Great Pyramid is that we can't take it apart to look at it. Archaeology is a destructive process, so that limits what we can do on things, great monuments like the Great Pyramid. You can't take it apart. That's not possible. So the Scan Pyramids project is essentially using a bunch of different methods to try and X-ray scan the Great Pyramid, and they've actually found two large voids. They found one that's above the Great Gallery, which is like the entranceway into the tomb, and they found another one somewhere else. So, and they announced it all in a press release in February, March time. So that's what you're talking about. Yes, I have heard of it. Yes, it's very cool. I hope that we have some more interesting stuff come out of that. It would be really, I mean, professional opinion, I don't think that we're ever going to find anything else in the Great Pyramid. It has been around for 4,000 years. I think it's been looted. It's been looted for over a very long period of time. So I doubt it would be really cool. I'm not saying that it 100%. That's not. We're never going to find anything because you never know. You can't say these things in absolutes. I doubt it. But I would be happy to be wrong. That would be so cool. Where do you prefer to vacation? Everywhere? I don't know. I really like to see new places. My husband and I did our honeymoon in Rome and Sorrento by Naples in Italy, and it was amazing. I would love to go back to Rome. I had an amazing time there. I loved the city. I loved the vibe. I also did love Sorrento as well. Sorrento was lovely. So Italy, I want to see more of. I would love to go to Florence, and other parts of Italy as well. I like to travel to historical places when I go on holiday, because then it gives me something to do besides just lie on the beach, because my husband also is just not a lie about kind of person. He likes to be active and do things. So we actively go see archaeological sites basically. And so I was in Istanbul in April. It was awesome. I very much enjoyed it. I was toying with the idea of then going to Athens on our way home, which I've never been to. I would love to go to Athens. So that's probably one of the next big places on my list. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about this at the moment, but I'm in the process. Basically, next year, I'm going to be an expert on like a holiday thing. I think that's all I can say about this. When I'm allowed to talk about it publicly, I will speak about it, but I'm getting like a free holiday, well, not a free holiday because I have to present as an expert, but I get to go on holiday and talk about archaeology, and as a result, I don't have to pay to do it. So I'm very excited, and that is going to be in the Middle East, so I'm very excited about doing that. But I will tell you guys more about it when I know that I'm allowed to say more about it. Oh, okay. Oh, we're done. Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna like pause this for a second because we're officially finished. Okay. So if I do this, oh, let's play with this now. Okay. I finished it. I finished it before 8 o'clock, guys. I win. This is so good. I've got all my little figurines. I'm gonna have to find a place to put this. It's gonna be really hard. I currently am running out of places. I say this like I have many Lego sets. I have like 4. This is the 4th one. But yeah, now that I have a cat, I have to find much better places to put them so that she's not gonna like knock them over all the time. But this is cool. So this basically, it falls over to allow them to escape. So exciting. That's cool. I like that. This guy turns around. He's swiveling. He's dancing. You know, he's just happy to be there. And this is a tomb full of snakes. Snakes on a tomb, basically. There was a snake here, and I don't know. I've done something with it. Oh, I'll probably put it there. Ooh, more snakes. I mean, what more could? Oh, you can't really see that from there, can you? Here, let's do it again. More snakes. That's really what you need, right? On an archaeological site. More snakes. Cool. I am going to, we'll put Mary in here. She's lighting the way. Indiana Jones is in the middle of all the snakes. Oh no, the poor man. Saul is up here. Oh no, he's not up there. Saul is up here being like, Indy, what are you doing up there? Asps. Oh my god, too many asps. And then we're going to put this guy, a mummy, again, completely out of place. Where's this guy from? There's no mummy in Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's he doing here? This guy's he's just hanging out over here. Yeah, we'll just do that. Woo! Very exciting. Alrighty. Oh, sorry. I do have a microphone. I don't know if this is actually taking my audio. Okay. So, Time Team thanks being funded by BBC would have been more resources than a more normal archaeologist. Don't know if... So, Time Team. I've actually never really watched Time Team. It was a very British thing. It wasn't big when I was growing up in Canada. So, it's a TV show, so it's different funding. Yeah, I don't know how much that would have cost. It is still going. They've actually resurrected it recently. I don't think it has Tony Robinson on it anymore, but they basically have a YouTube channel now. So if you want to watch Time Team, go nuts. They have a whole thing going on in their YouTube channel. They should invite me to come be on one of their digs. Just saying. I'm scared of lightning too. Yeah. Lightning, I enjoy lightning from the safe comfort of my home. Oh, Emma's come to say hello. Are you investigating? Are you going to knock it over? No, she's just going to look for bugs. You want to say hello? No, you don't. Okay, you're just gonna sit there, show everybody your butt. Okay, she's lying down. She's been doing this a lot lately. She usually sits on we have a suction thing on my window above my desk, and she usually just sits up there and sleeps there. But the past week or so, she's just started coming onto the desk, and she's like, I'm gonna lie here now, and this is my nap spot, and you just deal with it. Oh, oh no. What are you going to do? Okay, because I gotta turn off the keyboard, because otherwise this will just disappear randomly. Oh no, I've done something. Okay. Time Team. Scared of lightning. You got my documentaries mixed up. Show I saw them bring the portable X-ray machine was Servants of the Serpent Goddess. Yeah, I've never watched that. But, cool. I'll have to check it out. Available on YouTube, Nat Geo, 36 minutes. I will look at it. Do you get to meet any Highland wildlife? No. I saw deer from very far away. I have held a lamb. I don't know if that counts. The place on this Scottish Highland snowstorm, we were staying at a place that was a hobby farm small holding, and it was lambing season, and they had a lamb in the house that was rejected. Its mother died, or its mother rejected it or something, so they were hand feeding it before they would take it back out in the field. And they had, when we checked in, oh, do you want to come hold a baby lamb? And I was just like, yeah. Why not? Yes, I want to hold a baby lamb. Oh, there's Emma. Oh, look, she's climbing onto my husband's bicycle. She's going to try and jump up to the top of the wardrobe. So she's really big into kitty parkour. She is a very adventurous cat. She's very mischievous. And yeah, so they were like, oh, do you want to hold a lamb and feed a baby lamb? And I was just like, yes, I do. So I went over and I bottle fed a baby lamb, and it was very soft and cute. But yeah, other than that, I've not really come across any other wildlife. I've come across moles on a site that, one of my last sites in Lincolnshire. We were on this site, and they had this mole that we were excavating these barrows, and this guy, like, we would go away for lunch and we would come back and he just like burrowed like all the way around everything that we were doing. And like they're really scared of humans. So if you go near them, they can feel the vibrations in the ground and they stop moving. But this guy, we'd been around for so often, he had no fear. He was just like, I'm gonna do what I want. So you would be standing right next to him and we just like keep going. I think they eventually caught him and put him out in another field. But I never actually saw him. I just saw his like little tunnels. Um, yeah, I love that guy. He totally be the type to booby trap his tomb. I don't know who you're speaking about, but yes, the Emperor of China was a dick. So the first Emperor of China was not, I don't think he was a nice person. So yes, very much the type of person to booby trap his tomb. Italy in July is too hot. Yes, Italy is very hot. We went in May. We haven't been in, and we went at the end of May, beginning of June, and it was my husband was like dying. He was like melting into the pavement. Whereas I love being hot. I would prefer to be hot over cold, so I was fine. Mm. You should visit Venice. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going to Venice, but I've not heard great things about it. I've heard that it is quite malodorous in the summer, especially. I think it smells really bad. So yeah, I don't know, like of all the places that people like have on their bucket list to go, Venice is just not one for me. I don't know why. Uh, Being paid to go on vacation and info dump about archaeology. Yeah, that is the dream. I would love to do more of that. So thanks. I love these minifigures. Snake dispenser. Hi, cat. Yeah, no, she's not too destructive. Um, uh, she she was interested in my pyramid set for a while, but I have techniques for keeping her away from things that I don't want her to be on top of. So you have to be really vigilant about it. But yeah, she's not too bad for destroying things. She's a good girl. We like her. We'll keep her around. You know. I'm gonna see if I have. I finally caught up to the comments. Well done, me. It's a lot easier when you're not trying to build something on my own. Just like I'm gonna throw out all of this plastic, so I'm gonna put this all in my bin. So I did put out a call on my Instagram that if anybody wanted to send questions in for the live stream, they could. So I will refresh my Instagram and see if anybody's responded. Probably not. Yeah. I don't know if you heard that. My cat is also very vocal. She's like me. She loves to talk. Yeah, don't ya? You love to talk. You're a talkie. You're a chatty catty. You're a chatty catty. Mm-hmm. No, okay. No questions on Instagram. That's fine. You know what? There probably is stuff on Instagram, but it's just not showing up on my browser version. I don't know if I can. Do I want to mess with my phone here? I don't think I do. I'm just gonna leave it. Check Twitter. Gotta return on my flippin' keyboard. If I could remember to do that, that would be good. Brilliant. Brilliant. I want to do this. I feel an executive order of Lego is needed. Cool. That's a comment, not a question. Yeah, I just got comments on my Twitter. I don't have any questions from people. That's fine. Ooh. Have you ever used pack animals to carry things around a site? No. No. We use cars. Yes. Well, yeah, you want to be the star of the show again. Yeah, you do. She's up because it's like, well, between right around 9 o'clock is when she gets her last dinner of the day, and an hour before dinner she starts asking for dinner all the time. So she's eating some of her cat grass in the corner right now. Pack animals. No, we use cars. When I in Jordan, our team had a pickup truck that they would drive. Like we went to site in a bus every day, which also, thinking back, was a quite terrifying drive right near the end because it was right near a ravine. But we kept all of our tools on site in like a tent, because, well, the Bedouin were there and they would basically look after it, and it was in the middle of nowhere. Like nobody was going to go steal it. So our tools were all kept on site every day, and we had a pickup truck that if we had anything extra, we could bring that in. And that's basically what it's been like on every site that I've worked on in the UK. You just have like a site vehicle which has all your equipment in it. You might have more than one vehicle sometimes, depending on how many people you have and how much stuff you have to transport. The only time I've ever like seen a pack animal, yes, it's very interesting, was like when I went to Petra when we were in Jordan, and they have donkeys to take you up to certain spots, and you can ride them if you want, but they're not pack animals. Looks like it's dinner time. Yes, Vaverka, you are correct. It is kitty awake time. Okay. I'm almost at 3 hours. Lonely one. Thank you for answering all my inane questions. Your questions are inane. Don't say that about yourself. Okay, Emma, if you're going to be here, you need to... You can't... Yeah, okay. No, your questions are inane. I don't mind answering them at all. Like, that's partly why I'm doing this, is because people have these questions, they don't know where to ask them, because, as I mentioned before, we're really bad at promoting ourselves sometimes, so I don't mind answering them at all. I was going to say, I did prep some questions in case people were feeling, so I'll just kind of run through these now that it's kind of near the end, and then I'll probably sign off and go have my dinner. So I kind of looked for like really like typical questions that people tend to ask archaeologists. So I'll just rapid fire through those. So the first one is, what's the difference between archaeologists and paleontologists? So this is really common. You get, as an archaeologist, people coming up to you and being like, oh, dinosaurs. And we're like, not really though, because we don't do dinosaurs. So paleontology is the scientific study of fossils to learn about non-human life on Earth. So that's dinosaurs. That could also, what did you just, oh, what have you done? Nope. Oh, this cat, man, she's just, anyway, non-human life. I think that does also include hominid stuff. So like Neanderthals and Homo naledi and all that kind of stuff. Archaeology is the study of human-made artifacts and structures to learn about ancient people and cultures. So a lot of the time as well, archaeology is from kind of like, how I think of it is like the start of civilization. So like the start of farming and stuff. Like we do like prehistory and stuff like that, but a lot of what we do is civilization concerned. And yeah, if you haven't left an artifact behind, we can't tell anything about you. So yes. What's the coolest thing that you've ever found? The Carnoustie spearhead, that's a good one. I also, my first dig in Jordan, I found this like glass bangle that was really beautiful that I thought was a rock. And so I put it in my Pretty Rock collection, and then I asked if I could take it home and pointed it out to my supervisor, and she was like, "That's a piece of a bracelet. That means you have a burial here." And that's how we ended up excavating all those burials. But it was so beautiful. It was like turquoise green. It was just, oh, it was gorgeous. So that was kind of like my first really cool find. That always kind of comes to find for me. How do archaeologists determine the age of finding stuff? So like the example here is pottery. So there's lots of different techniques that you can use for dating things. And so something like pottery, you probably have a good idea of what the age is if you're on an excavation and you found it, because you probably have an idea of what the age of your excavation is or the area. So like when I was in Jordan, we were working on an Iron Age site, so we know that the pottery that we're getting from that is going to be probably Iron Age. Also, people will have done typologies. So that's where they've kind of, they know a site. They've basically sorted all the ceramics and they've made like a catalog of like, these are the types of pottery from this period and these are the different uses. So if you can look at your piece of pottery, you can kind of sort it into that catalog. You can also look at the fabric, which is like the cross section of it. And that can tell you as well about how far advanced the technology is. So that's in relation to like how hot the fires get in kilns and how they fire the pottery. So like the type of pottery that it is can tell you something about it. Roman Samian ware, for example, it's a very distinctive type of pottery. And like porcelain from China, that kind of stuff. But outside of that, we also have radiocarbon dating, so we can do that, but obviously you have to have something that qualifies for radiocarbon dating. Not everything can be radiocarbon dated. Dendrochronology, that's where you use tree rings to date stuff. That is crazy, but it is really cool and it does work. You also sometimes you have historical documents that can allow you to date things. There's all these new technologies that are coming out as well. The latest archaeology news, I did a story on a cave in Laos where they were using a bunch of different dating techniques to date some really like old stuff, like tens of thousands of years old stuff. And because they couldn't use radiocarbon dating and more traditional methods, and so they were using all these other ways of doing it, which I don't know the specifics of and I don't really remember offhand, but they were really cool. So there's lots of different ways that we can date stuff. It just kind of depends on what it is. Different things can be dated in different ways. Pottery, usually pretty easy. Human bone, that's where you would use or an organic material, something that has like breathed and ingested carbon. That's where you use radiocarbon dating. Wood objects, that's where you could use the dendrochronology for that. I suppose so. Don't quote me on that. But what's yeah. And then obviously as well, sometimes it depends on where you found it. So if you found something in situ, in context, even if you don't know the exact date of an item, if you know kind of the dates of everything around it, you can kind of infer how old it is from that. So like if you found like a stone axe on a site and you know that everything else around it is, that's actually a bad example because those things are again, they're like a typology, like pottery. You can like tell kind of roughly what era it comes from by how far advanced or what type of axe it is or what type of tool it is. But yeah, sometimes you can just tell if you're on a historical site and you find something, you're like, this is probably from this period of this site. What should I do if I'm concerned about an archaeological site? I did want to mention this because that is, so people message me all the time on Instagram, or they put comments on YouTube being like, I found something, can you identify it? Or like, oh, I found this thing. I actually got a phone call once when I was working at an archaeology company and I was in the office and I picked up the phone and someone from like Africa was calling us being like, I found something in a cave, come help me. And we were like, no, we can't do that. That is like way outside of our jurisdiction. Find someone local to help you with that. So if you think you found an archaeological site, if it's on your, obviously it depends on where you live. Different places have different laws. Something might apply one way in the UK differently than it does in Canada, in the US. But if it's your own property in general, leave it alone. Limit impacts to it. Don't go around telling everybody about it. Because if that happens, as I said before, like people might get the wrong idea and they'll come and they'll loot it. And then contact your local authority. If it's council, university, archaeology department, lots of people in your area. There are probably people in your area working to protect archaeological sites. And they may know about it, they might not, but I'm sure that they would appreciate you letting them know about it. That being said, some places will then be like, well, we now need to dig this and it's at your cost, but I can't really comment on whether or not that would happen. But in general, if you find something that's an archaeological site, leave it alone, maybe take some pictures, email someone official, like don't just email a random archaeologist. Don't email me because like if I'm not local to your area, I don't know. Like I'm not familiar with the area. I'm not familiar with the other sites that have been found in the region. I'm not familiar with if that site's been recorded before. So try and research, use Google, use the internet, and try and find, okay, is there a local archaeologist? Is there a local archaeology group? Is there a local archaeology society? And they will be able to help you figure this out. What do you do if you find an archaeological artifact on a property that you don't own? So say you're out hiking in the middle of nowhere. Probably just leave it where it is. A lot of the time it's illegal to remove artifacts from places. You're not supposed to move them. If you find a hoard of gold coins in the middle of nowhere, take a photo, take a note of where you found it, and contact the local archaeology people in charge so that they can investigate it. Please don't take it and use it for your own gain. That's really crap. And also it's illegal and you will probably be caught and you'll have to go to jail. One of the things that I've been covering a lot in archaeological news lately is the amount of looters that are currently getting like processed in the courts. It's like kind of crazy. There is very active people out there trying to go after people who loot archaeological sites and who buy antiquities illegally. So yeah, that's not a good thing. Please don't do that. Show it to an archaeologist so it can go in a museum. What do I do if I find human remains? Call the police. That's it. Don't if you find what you think are human remains, even if it's a skeleton in the middle of nowhere, call the police and they will take care of it. It's not your job. Don't send it to me. Yeah. North American paleo, I know, overlaps a lot because a mammoth died. Did people kill this mammoth? Can often be confused. Yes. When do you think your collab will be with Kaylee? I don't know. I hope it will be soon. As I said, she's literally visiting Scotland right now, but she's doing that as a holiday. It's not a working holiday. But I was saying to her, we need to get on top of this because we've been meaning to do it for ages. We just, like, our schedules have just not lined up. But I'm going to pin her down in the next, like, month or two, and we're going to do it. Yeah. You want to say hello with your actual face? Oh, ow, ow, that's your claw. Okay, you don't want to say hello, it's fine. Ow. We'll do it this way. There you go. Yeah. There you go. She's a sweetie. We love her. We'll keep her around, I think. North America. Okay, let's just do this, and then I'm going to wrap this up because I am hungry, so I need to eat. My brain is so broken. Whoa. My friends were talking about dating. My first thought was isotope dating. Yeah. Isotope analysis. That's interesting because it can tell you a lot more than just dates as well. Like, there's some really cool stuff that they do with, is it nitrogen? Where they can, like, tell you where someone grew up. And, like, basically basically the history of where you live is in your teeth. And archaeologists can extract that from your teeth. And then they can be like, this person grew up here, and then they moved, and then we found this stuff here, so they clearly moved here. It's crazy. But very cool. Yeah, so I think that's what it is. Okay, Emma, you got to be nice. You got to say goodbye. Oh yeah, I know, you're so fussy. You say, oh yeah. Don't worry, okay. She's so cute. Such a good girl. You say bye-bye? You say bye-bye and thank you for coming? Yeah, I know. You're more interested in trying to eat something on the ground, I'm sure. Oh, okay. So, signing off. We're going to finish off. So we're going to wind everything up so I can go have dinner. But I said, obviously, that I have an announcement to make at the end of this stream. There's currently 3 of you here. So you got the breaking news. This will be going out everywhere as well. But basically, I'm rebranding the channel. It is no longer going to be called Rachel Lawman. That comes from when I was a child and I played Pharaoh, the city building game. My dad put it in as my username for the game, and that has just come with me my whole life. But now I'm going to archive it in a very archaeological fashion, and we're going to the channel will now be called Inside Archaeology. So I've decided to do this partly because as the channel's evolved, it's now about more than me, my career. I wanted to reflect that in the name. Also, having archaeology in the name should help me with search engine optimization and people being able to find the channel by having that in the name. So hopefully, as I was saying, that will help grow the channel a bit more. And I've also started this Ko-fi account. So if people really like my videos and you want to send me $1 or something, that's helpful. It's more than I make on AdSense, I swear. All of the videos are staying up on the channel. I'm not going anywhere. I've designed myself a very fancy new logo, and we've got the new name. I've also made a little bit of a channel trailer, which I'm going to put live tonight. So you'll be able to watch that. And tomorrow, as I said, I'm putting out a new video. So I did the Netflix Unknown, The Lost Pyramid. And yeah, that was interesting to watch, especially with Zahi Hawass. Zahi Hawass is an interesting person. I'll just leave it at that. So make sure that you come and watch that video this weekend, and you will still be getting videos from me every other Friday going forward as usual, with the exception of the archaeology news, which comes out on the first Friday of every month. Yeah. So yeah, I want to just thank you all for coming along and participating. I've had a really good time. I appreciate everyone who's come along and asked me questions. I hope that I've done an okay job of answering your questions. I'm really hoping that we can work together to build the channel this year, because I've been working on it for like 7 years, and I would just really like to see it go somewhere. I'd like to see something come out of it. I really love interacting with you guys and chatting with you guys and answering your questions and everything from you. So stay tuned, and I hope that we'll continue to do exciting stuff, and maybe I'll continue to doing some streams in the future. This was really fun, so maybe I can turn it into some bit more of a regular event. We'll see. So I hope that you all have an excellent weekend. If you're going to do Barbenheimer, enjoy. I know that I'm going to enjoy. I'll let you know what I think of it, I guess, tomorrow after I go. And yeah, have a good rest of your evening. And thank you so much for coming along. I really appreciate all your support. Bye.